365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Brooks! Goodbye. Jonathan Brooks. 54 yards for the Texas touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Empty backfield for Williams. He's got a wing back and a receiver boundary side right. High snap, yanked down, sets to throw, scans to his right, scans back to his left. Is he going to run now? Now he fakes, running near side. He's going to whip it downfield, and it is caught at the 35-yard line across the field, running to the right side. He's being chased by Woods. Can't get him. 10-5 end zone. Touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Estimate is loose. Hardrick Estimate. Touchdown, Notre Dame.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
So that is a costly penalty that puts Kentucky back on the field. And then Ray Davis. All day Ray. Look at him go. Man, oh man, is Davis doing it up. 75-yard touchdown for sweet baby Ray.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Anais coming near side. Anais Smith. He's to midfield. Cuts it back. This one may go to the house. Ain't nobody going to catch Anais Smith.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, 365 Sports on a Tuesday afternoon. Some honors and awards and some rankings to get to. We'll do that, not the top 25, but college football coaches and their salaries. And then an interesting comment from Steve Sarkisian on Monday about the players who are now on campus at Texas and their focus. We'll have that for you, too. But Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak in the studio today. Garrett Ross, also Owen is here. Jack McKenzie, of course, Levi and Emery, always a part of everything that we do. Let's start with this. Baylor defensive back Caden Jenkins, who had the pick and also the fumble return, scoop and score, has been announced as the Bronco Nagurski Award winner for his performance. He was also named the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week just on Monday. And then this one, not a surprise, although there were a couple of others in the voting that were interesting, including former Baylor quarterback Kyron Drones. Jonathan Brooks of Hallettsville, Texas. Man, has he been explosive. Over 200 yards. And, of course, had a hell of a game, nationally televised game against Kansas. And so he is the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award winner.
Yeah, it was fantastic against Kansas. He's been, replacing Bijan Robinson very ably this year. I mean, obviously, like you said yesterday, you're not just going to forget about Bijan Robinson, but that was going to be maybe to me one of the big questions is how effectively do they replace that in their offense? And so far, so good for Jonathan Brooks and Texas in the running game.
Yeah, Caden Jenkins, a big week for him. He's got to turn it into more, though. I mean, he's a young player, and I'm sure this is all everything he hoped for, and at the same time a little bit overwhelming to suddenly have this amount of attention, but hopefully he embraces that, and he's built for that, and he can turn that into more performances like what we saw, because without either one of his turnovers, they don't win that football game. So he was highly important and very well deserving of that award. And then for Jonathan Brooks, I mean, same thing. A terrific game for him against the Jayhawks, especially these last, couple of weeks. He's really turned it up another notch. And Texas, that offense, really, you look around, where's the weakness? I mean, where is the weakness? Outside of, an injury, I don't see where you really find too many holes with this team. That's the only thing that I really see. We'll see this weekend, obviously, with Oklahoma, who the better team is. We don't know that just yet. We all have our thoughts on that. But barring that, if they're able to get past Oklahoma, it seems like the only thing that would derail them would be something, along the lines of health, because they are absolutely stacked, especially on offense. And, defense not too far off either. But Jonathan Brooks has been a heck of a bright spot for them on an offense with a lot of star power.
Yep.
He has emerged as one of their better playmakers at the moment, and that is obviously welcome news for Sarkisian and Ewers and company.
Well, Bruce Feldman today in theathletic.com, I reached out to him to maybe get him on this week, but had an article about quotes from those who have either played Texas this year or those who have scouted them and been in person. It's really, really good, and it's like what I've said, and really watching it in person when they destroyed Baylor is what they have on each line. They have this young, talented, although not all freshmen or sophomores, but this young, big, athletic, just beat you up offensive line, but also it's the defensive line with the full motor despite guys who are 6'4", 305 and running like they can run like mad from sideline to sideline.
Well, that's the biggest similarity I see to their last great team in 2009 and this one is that they're up front. They're fantastic, and I think that, quarterback was something that kind of eluded them for a while, but you can't tell me that if you had given a better offensive system and the line that they have now to Sam Ehlinger, that he wouldn't have been able to kind of lead an offense like that because he was a really, really good player. So, they just didn't have those things, especially on defense. I think that was one thing that always kind of surprised me is that they never even found their way into a really consistent good defense at Texas over this time. And now here they are, they're doing it again.
They couldn't stop the run at times, and if they could, then they gave up just big gashing yards in the passing game, despite the fact some guys have gone on to play in the NFL. This seems like it's all tightly wound with what they have and the size of what they have, leaning on people on either side of the football.
Yeah, I mean, I give credit to the coaches, and I don't want this to be, taken the wrong way. I'm sure that it will be, by someone, though, but it's money well spent, too. I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
You can go out and you buy an offensive line nowadays. You don't have to sit there and have hits or misses, and then if guys don't hit, then you're totally screwed for a year or two. I mean, you can just go pony up whatever it was a couple years ago, $50K per lineman, and that certainly helps solve matters. But I don't want to just put it on that. It's also Sark and company's ability to recruit just in general, and their ability to hit the transfer portal in some areas, and all of that has come together. Their wallet, their star power, their brand. I mean, everything just seems like it's kind of coming together all at the right time to make this team in particular one that is very formidable and has a big test on Saturday. Oklahoma's no pushover by any means, but this is a different Texas team for all of those who are like, oh, they're voting the preseason. Oh, here we go again. It's like, no. I was pretty adamant about not think this is different, and not that I was the only one by any means, but so far, that has proven out to be the case, and this is going to be a great game Saturday in Dallas.
Well, I picked them to win the conference. Remember, I went over my Big 12 media poll, and so far it looks as if that is absolutely on target, but still games to be played, including not just Saturday, but others down the road. But one of the other things about the best money can buy or whatever is that you have to make sure you're giving it to the right people.
Yes, that's what I said. You can still be able to recruit and all of that, but yeah, no, absolutely. But it definitely helps, when you're trying to completely overhaul something and build something, the way that they did starting, I guess, a couple of years ago with the offensive line being a particular point of emphasis for them, and you're seeing the dividends paying off. And so, yeah, that's not a knock. That's just reality. That's not something they necessarily would have been able to do 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so being able to have that along with just your typical pull of being Texas has allowed for a very quick, coming together of all their parts and pieces to where it's bubbling up this year and looks like it could be, something pretty special.
Look, in just comparing it to professional sports, there are teams that have all the free agency money to spend in the world and are terrible at it. They're absolutely terrible at figuring out who to spend their money on. The Jaguars for years would just spend money doing whatever, here are the top 7 free agents. We're going to go spend money on 4 of them. But was that who they really needed, those 7 in particular, or could they save money and pick somebody better for what they do? It's the identifying the talent. Yeah, everybody can do it. Now, look, it's not a fair market. There's not a salary cap or anything like that in college sports, so it's not completely balanced like the NFL could be, but it still takes the skill to go, yes, this guy is worth that money that we're going to pay him. Right here, let's go get this guy, get him locked up with some NIL and get him in the program. That certainly takes some skill because everybody, like, you could put the three of us in charge of a team and say, here's your budget, go find some people. Well, if we're not necessarily good at picking out who the guys are that fit the system we're running, we're not going to be successful.
Yeah, not always the highest. But one thing, a note, if you look at their depth chart, Kelvin Banks a sophomore, Campbell's a sophomore, and then you have Connor and Majors and Jones, all of them juniors and seniors. So, but it's below that. They've dug this tremendous amount of, like, this depth on their offensive line with many others who are freshmen, and they are deep. In fact, their entire backup offensive line, it looks like, are freshmen and sophomores, and on the third team even, other than one player from Longview, again, a bunch of freshmen behind them too. Steve Sarkisian said this yesterday. This is from Devin Messenger. He covers UT. Steve Sarkisian saying that, this is interesting to me, saying that players are coming to the 40 acres for the right reasons, something that hasn't always been the case. Explain.
I don't know. It's his quote. So
I'm going to explain.
I mean,
I'll give it an opinion.
Yeah.
This means that perhaps the guys are starting to get in. That doesn't mean there's not going to always be entitlement, no matter who the program is or the type of level of player and recruit. But this seems to be, is you might have players who are now on their team who are there, and yes, they expect something in return, but they're not there for just that. They're there to play football and be a part of something special.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that. I think, like I was saying a second ago, like the brand itself is a large pull, like regardless of anything else. And so they certainly are equipped with that. But I think that maybe I'll take it more as, because I don't think like all these guys in previous years were just showing up and, taking it for granted necessarily. But I do think a lot of people did show up and think that the wins were automatically just coming with having that jersey on. And then just expecting that was going to carry over year after year of what Vince did or what Colt did or whatever is going to automatically translate. And I do think they fell into a rut of, hey, we're the 09 team. And it's like, no, it's 2012, bud, and you're not anywhere close, or whatever. And so I think that, they finally may have, just the right group of guys who are in it for the right reasons, as in for each other and, knowing that the work that they have to put in and all of those types of things, as opposed to, I'm just going to commit to Texas, show up, and we're going to win, because of the jersey that we're wearing. I do think there was some of that at various points in time. And so, I think they're showing up because they want to play for Sark and those various other coaches on that staff, and all the other things that go with that. We're living in Austin, all that, but I think it's mostly like, they're showing up and ready to work and doing it the right way.
All right, here's another graphic. This is from the top-rated wide receivers from Pro Football Focus College Edition. Here are the 5 top-rated receivers from last weekend, and right there on the top to the right, a young man who finally was able to make some plays, given the opportunity, but also win, given the opportunity. He also produced in Baylor's Monterey Baldwin, who was a big focus of my conversation with Dave Aranda yesterday and in the media session about how he all of a sudden, the give and take between he and the coaching staff apparently is where it needs to be. And he produced on Saturday. Now they need him to back that up. Maybe not 150 every week, but they need him to hit the big play at least once or twice a game, whether it's a short crossing pattern that he goes deep or one that he catches a post over the middle.
Yeah, I think it changes their offense completely when the playmakers make plays. I mean, it's not hard,
Isn't that amazing how that works?
Yeah, I mean, and I still, there wasn't a deep explanation on Richard Reese, but for whatever reason, and I would have thought they would, with the backup quarterback, have just leaned heavily into Richard Reese, and they didn't over those games. And then when they did, look what happened. And then when Monterey Baldwin kind of got out of his own head or what was going on and started making plays, look what happened.
Yeah. And then there was the one where he actually, even Aranda brought this up, he ran over a few people along the way. Now, with Texas OU coming up Saturday at noon at the Cotton Bowl, Brett McMurphy showing that it's only the 5th time. Think about this. It's only the 5th time since Vince Young and company won the national title that Texas is the favorite against Oklahoma. The last 4 times Texas was favored, they won. In 2006, 2005, 2006, 2009, which was that incredible game, and then also the blowout last year, 49-0. They're just under a touchdown favorite to win the game on Saturday.
Yeah, that seems about right. I think that Texas looks, like they are a slight favorite based on what I've seen from both teams. I think Oklahoma's going to have a lot to say and could very well jump up and win this game. I know it's not just that's stating the obvious, but it's also the rivalry factor. It's any given Saturday, but it's also I think that they're both very talented teams. So I'd expect, with what we've seen out of Oklahoma's defense and their offense, that they're going to be able to get some stops and score some points, and same for Texas. And I don't know how that all works out in the end. That's going to be the fascinating part, is to see how exactly all of that works. But I would be shocked by either team blowing the other one out by 14 or more. I think that that's about the max that I would go to, but anything more than that, and I think whoever walks out of Dallas on Saturday, you're going, damn, are they the number one team in the country if they were to have a big win like that? But right now I'm expecting something along those lines, is a closer scoring game, but it's going to be really interesting how that unfolds exactly.
All right, here are a couple of stats that I have from the College Football Media Blitz. It's an email, just a couple of 3 notes, and then we're going to get to the highest paid coaches, which most of them in college football. The game against Kansas, Texas had 661 yards. It's the most in a Big 12 game in school history. As good as they were, 661 yards against Kansas. The previous high was 658 against Patrick Mahomes and Texas Tech, and we know those Texas Tech teams couldn't play defense. That was back in 2016. Kentucky has now won 3 straight games against Florida, first time since a 4-game streak back in 48 through 51, when Bear Bryant was the head coach at Kentucky. Also, Marcus Freeman named head coach on December 2021. Fighting Irish are now 5-4 overall against AP-ranked teams. Would you take that and be happy with it?
Yeah, sure. It's a winning record. Yeah. So, I guess I'm not really concerned about what he's done up to this point. I'm concerned about where they are right now. And they won, a big game on Saturday, and they seem to be primed it in a really good position. I don't know how people view that type of thing. I've never really, I know with like Matt Rule, there was a big, he was 0-5 against top 25 teams and that kind of jazz. But I don't know. I don't really delve too deep in that, but it seems like he got off to a pretty sour start last year, and he's made some great strides along the way. Still, I guess, some work to do as far as, big-time opponents, but that was a big-time win by them on Saturday, and they're looking pretty salty right now.
I watched a Notre Dame extra thing. You see that now. Baylor has one too, but it's interesting because you could hear the headsets of the coordinators or coaches. It was like hearing fighter pilots on their their conversations with the tower or with each other.
Yeah, that Notre Dame video is worth checking out. It's really well done. It's really one of the better videos and probably on the cutting edge of what a lot of those videos are going to look like moving forward. I haven't seen every school's departments, but the way that they put that together with the coaches' headsets so you could hear the communications over the headsets was pretty tremendous. One of the guys that was talking was Chancey Stuckey, who was wide receivers coach at Baylor last year. So I'd forgotten about that, and then I heard them talking to him, and I'm like, oh, yeah, and to hear all of the discussions and little conversations that are happening at all these very pivotal moments in that game and deciding what exactly to do or what play to run, what to say in those situations. We kind of, I guess, have some insight, but to hear actually unfold the way that they told that story was pretty incredible. So job well done by the Notre Dame digital department or whatever you'd call it. That was a really cool video, and everybody should check that out.
Obviously with the quarterback and what kind of a game he was having, the moments they were just trying to hand it off to kick a field goal, and then of course they popped it for the big run. Then they went for 2, which they had discussed 2 or 3 plays earlier. Hey, by the way, if we score, what do we do? The 2-point conversion based on the defense that Duke had been running, and of course it worked too. Finally, this one. The 25-point end of third quarter deficit erased by Baylor was the 3rd largest ever by a winning FBS team over another. The 3rd largest ever. Utah beat Arizona in 1972, UCLA and Texas A&M in 2017, both down 27 entering the 4th. Baylor's previous largest halftime deficit to win was 19 points in 1993 against Fresno State. So there, compared to some historical perspective. 3:21 is the time, 365 Sports.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool stat, and was awesome on Saturday. And I mean, I didn't realize how much history had been made, nationally. I knew for the program it was a big deal, but very cool outcome. And I think that's something we're all going to remember for a very long time. And at this point, I'm curious if it's going to matter. I mean, do they turn around and get whooped by Tech on Saturday at home and get embarrassed on a Saturday night like they have before, or they turn around and they turn it into a 2-game winning streak, and then all of a sudden they're 2-1 in the Big 12, and they're at 500, and all of a sudden there's a path to go make a bowl game, whereas a couple weeks ago there was no path. Nope. It was almost impossible to see a path for them to do that. And now because of that UCF win, that's changed, nothing dramatically, like they're going to go make the playoff. I mean, that's, even winning the Big 12 is a very long shot at this point, but they still have a chance so long as they win on Saturday. Same thing for Texas Tech. So that's going to be a big game. But yeah, this game's only big because of what both were able to do a week ago. And certainly in Baylor's case, they had to fight out of a huge hole and do the improbable, but they got the job done. And just the thing is how do you build off that? How do you continue that? And also, do you actually start the game well, or do you play 3 terrible quarters and then think you're going to just turn a light switch on and you're going to make some big rally again? Because that's no way to live, even though TCU was able to, have all those, big clutch moments. I don't know that this Baylor team is built for those just yet, but they definitely had one last week.
All right, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Again, this is 365 Sports. I want to bring this up because I saw this yesterday in the chat room. There was a question from Connor Johnson. He's an Oregon State fan who we got to know during all of the back and forth, especially once USC and UCLA bolted for the Big Ten. And he was in there with us a lot. He didn't like, some of what was truth serum and facts that we reported. It wasn't that. He was frustrated because Oregon State, Washington State appeared to be left out along with others. And now we know the end result. But he was asking about a report about Oregon State and Washington State. And I had really not seen this, but heard about it. You guys were talking about it a little bit yesterday. So I contacted somebody within the Big 12 office. Garrett, my question was, are there any imminent or future plans for Big 12 expansion involving Oregon State or Washington State? No truth to it.
Yeah, there's not many people reporting this at all. There's been some smoke and heat to it from one particular corner of the internet, and it's not happening. It's not, because if it was going to happen, they could have just done it all at once. There's no reason to slow play Oregon State and Washington State in this thing if you could just have them and everything was going to be fine. Oregon State and Washington State are not coming. They're not even focused on coming to the Big 12. They're focused on winning whatever they can from the Pac-12 money-wise, and then figuring out what they're going to do eventually, probably with the Mountain West, because that is where it's headed. That's going to be the best shot for them in the short term and the long term, and figuring out whatever they're going to do and rename it the Pac-12. But anything you hear about Oregon State and Washington State definitely coming to the Big 12, that there's definitely anything, is a lie. Yeah, it's a straight up and down lie.
No truth to it is the way that it was put. And Craig, I sent you guys that last night when I got the response. So there is that as far as those two schools in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I believe where that's coming from, and I believe that even before seeing that. I read a little bit on, I guess, the argument, and I don't know, I think the way that I guess, story is being positioned, there's a lot of like, well, if and hopefully and could and would, and then it's being taken though as like it's happening, and that doesn't appear to be the case in any way whatsoever, not even a shred of a little bit. It's more of, well, if this and this and this happens and this could happen and that could lead to them, and that's what it is, and it's not actually anything from like real things occurring, if that makes sense, is the best way, I guess, to explain how I read it and unpacked it. And realignment's a fun topic. It's an interesting topic, and it gets a lot of attention. And I think sometimes attention can be a bad thing for some people, or it's the entire driving force. And I think in this case, it's really, especially for Oregon State fans, I hate it for them because I think a lot of hopes are getting up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Washington State fans, same thing, because I don't think there's any merit to it. And I understand the argument. One of the guys involved DM'd me to tell me about the documents that he read and all that stuff. And I understand the point, but I think he himself would say, oh, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that, if this were to happen and this were to happen. So the fact that it's being taken as a report is totally BS. There's not a report that's happening. It's more or less, hey, if somehow those two get all of this money, which is not a guarantee by any means and is not something that is an automatic by any means. First of all, they're trying to figure out their own situation. Like, that's the first things first. And once you figure out your situation in court here in the next few weeks and you figure out what are you actually in control of as far as the money, the payouts, the network, and all that kind of stuff, then there will be a little bit of a clearer picture. But that's basically banking on schools getting like $100+ million from the playoff, which is just assuming that would be the case. And I understand, reading it a certain type of way, but there's absolutely nothing of actual guarantee or substance that that's going to be the case. And so this is something that would be way down the line, if anything, but right now doesn't have anything to it. And if you actually listen to the argument, there will even be a lot of, well, I'm not saying this is happening, but it could, and it's being taken, though, and being positioned as something that is happening to get eyeballs.
Well, I just saw this tweet. This is, and again, I'm going to read it. This is from a fan, I guess, Oregon State fan. Sources telling me that Oregon is driving Fox to throw money at the Big 12 to add Oregon State. No word on Wazoo, because the OU leadership feels that state lawmakers could force them to subsidize Oregon State, meaning the $30 million they're getting becomes $20 million. A Big 12, a Big 12 administrator high up the food chain responded to me yesterday, there is no truth to it. So I'll go, and with the person who I heard from, I will carry that as 100% validity.
Well, and even that example already had holes shot through it if you read the replies to it. That is not the case in the government structure, and that is not the situation as it currently stands. So, yeah, that's an example of, wishful thinking, I think, in a way. And, I don't want to be big S talk or anything here. I don't want people to get their hopes up when I don't think there's really any substance to that. I think that, again, it's carefully positioning certain parts of in a 1 in 1 million chance that could happen, but based on everything that we know, and I don't think that we've really tried to fool people or, do any of that, there's nothing to that. And, could there be anything else? Sure. But I don't want people to get their hopes up and think that there's something imminent or that there's something in the works, because to the best of our knowledge, that's not the case. And this is getting, to be a story that's not really the story that it's being positioned as. No, I guess is the best way that I could say it.
Yeah, right, and we're trying to do this at the highest acme of professionalism here, but it is, people in the realignment space like to chase clicks and page views. We prefer, I'll just say, to earn them, and by doing the work the right way. And so don't believe everything you hear. We've told you just before. And again, this is sourced information and not speculation. So that's where you need to kind of rely on getting your information when it comes down to the realignment stuff. And Oregon State and Washington State, let me just tell you, so it is, Matt Brown wrote today how interesting it was what is going on in Oregon about realignment and how they're approaching it, because it's a little bit different. But at the end of the day, the Pac-12 contract is up. So that argument they're going to be able to say, this contract is up. Now, if we can, rely on some of this future money, that some of the things that were still going to be built, but that also means that the rest of the group has to agree to give it to them.
Right.
So not just the rest of the Pac-12 teams, the rest of the teams in the country have to agree to let that money go to them, which they have 2 years where they can get the waiver. But don't think that if the other teams don't want them to get that money, that the rest of the 200 teams in the country are just going to let them have it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more complicated than just they're going to win against these other 10 schools because they broke up the conference. Well, no, it's not that simple.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know about how the money part works exactly. I know that there's an argument to be made that they could be in store for that money if everything falls their way. It's not a layup. It's not even a slam dunk, or it's not a slam dunk. It's not even a layup, but there's that possibility. And so the idea being that you have $200 million and how attractive that would be. But there are a lot of questions about that. For example, okay, let's say they get to operate as a 2-team conference. The Pac-12 is not an automatic qualifier. Like, so who's, I mean, you know, like you get there's the 6 automatic, but like that's not the Pac-12 automatically gets that.
It's the top 6
Yes.
highest ranked. So they would still have to be good.
Right. And so who are they playing?
Yeah.
Who are they playing in conference? Who is on their schedule after this year that they're playing besides each other?
Themselves, yeah.
Besides each other. And so, yeah, sure, if that all happens and then everybody around the country agrees to give Oregon State with their one conference win or whatever is put together, which would be, you know, shades of the Mountain West or whatever, and if everybody agrees that that's the same thing as what we're operating under right now, and that was automatic, then sure, but that's not exactly what it is. And nobody knows beyond right now what that is going to look like or where they're going to be playing. And so, you know, I'm trying to be as fair as possible. I see like the idea, but I don't think there's much of substance to it. You know, I think, again, it's a lot of hopefulness and, you know, there's a lot of questions about how all the playoff is going to work and all of that. But, yeah, they don't automatically – like it's not – Oregon State beat Washington State, so they automatically get that. And it's a lot more complicated as far as the playoff payouts and how all of that works. And so that's not really my area of expertise. But I think I know enough to know that, yeah, it's not just a guarantee that they're going to have $100+ million between the two of them and everything that comes with that. And everybody else is just going to play along with it and not – get together and band together and say, are we really going to let them just, you know, have a 2-team conference for a couple years and just give them a playoff spot? Like that's the part that's questionable to me is how all that would work. And I think that's part of what's being figured out. But as far as I'm concerned, to the best of my knowledge right now, Oregon State and Washington State are trying to figure out this lawsuit, and then you can kind of operate and move from there. But like any idea, like just to be clear, any idea that some Big 12 move is imminent is not true.
All right,
let's say that is not true.
Put the graphic up one more time, Garrett. Just one more time. So I asked, this is what we did for 2+ years when there were thoughts, reports, speculation, whatever, and a lot of times about 50% of them, again, were thrown up against the wall just if they stuck at some point later on down the road. 90% of them never did. Are there any imminent or future plans for the Big 12 to expand involving Oregon State or Washington State? No truth to it. Sit from somebody that is I've never gotten bad information from, ever. And so there we are with that.
Yeah, and I hate that. I would love for Oregon State and Washington State. I think we've all said multiple times we'd love for them to be in the conference. But, you know, I don't want to get people's hopes up, and I'm very curious to see how they land, where they land, and what that looks like. And I understand, like I said, that there's an idea of, like if a bunch of things fall like the perfect way, then sure, you'd be really rich and be, I guess, a bit more attractive. But that still doesn't guarantee that the Big 12 would be the conference to walk up and be like, hey, you want to go out now? Because that part of it is just, I think, well, they have to do it is the argument. That's the argument. Like, so why is this going to, well, because they'd have to. But why? Well, because they'd have to, because all this money, it's like, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do a damn thing. And so, no, that's not a good argument for why it would have to happen. But, yeah, I wish that there, you know, nobody would love more for us than us to have that be real and be chasing down, like, let's get Oregon State on the phone and let's get Washington State on the phone. And let's talk about it and how that would look and all of that. But we're not going to do that because from our point of view, that's just, there's nothing to that.
All right, let's break, please. Barry Trammell, who used to write for years for the Oklahoman. He's now a part of a website, selloutcrowd.com. He's a columnist and also does a podcast. He will join us on Oklahoma. Do we know who they are? Does he know who they are? And then later on, just after 5 o'clock, Roger Wallace, who's the color analyst for Texas Longhorns Radio. He will join us at just after 5. We have a lot to get to, an update. Craig will give updates on the Major League Baseball playoffs. And also, I saw the latest television numbers came out from the weekend, that too. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. I will be back there. It's not this week, but another week or two from now. And then I also am going to look at options for my bridge that popped loose the other day. It became loose. And Dr. Childress did an incredible job of getting it fixed. So he sat down with me. He called me up on obviously his schedule is crammed and busy on a Friday, which, just loaded. He said, come by and see me. He wanted to go over options with me about my bridge, which he was able to handle and take care of a couple of weeks ago. And that was something I'm like, my God, what do I do now? And there are options, not just implants or a permanent bridge or whatever. There's other options along the way, like something called a hybrid. Now, it's not cheap. It costs money, but it's your smile, it's your jaw, it's your mouth, it's your dental work, all of that in the above. And Dr. Childress and Dr. Warren from Brazos Oral Specialist in Surgery are trying to help me make the right decision. Now, it's going to cost money, and I have to make that budget decision too. If you want the best in dentistry, Dr. Steve Childress in Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible line of 2023 models like the Grand Cherokee, Renegade, Wrangler, and Gladiator. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Pioneer Steel & Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel & Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel & Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here we go, 365 Sports. Barry Trammell, selloutcrowd.com, longtime columnist, and also now has his podcast that he does, is with us on 365 Sports with Craig and David and also Paul. Barry, thanks for your time. How do you like the podcast business?
Well, I like it just fine. The good news is getting to still do all the writing. You know, I'm writing as much as ever or, close to it. Then you're adding the podcasting and video. Of course, a face like mine, you just got to put it on video. The masses demand it.
Yep.
So,
yep.
There's always the video element. They told me the other day, we need you to scoot farther back in the camera. So they literally told me that. So, but that's the way it goes. But we're having a blast. I was in newspapers for 45 years. Started when I was 17. And now, last month, 6 weeks, haven't been working for a newspaper. So it's been a little bit of a culture shift, but we're having a blast. Jenny Carlson came with me. my longtime colleague at the Oklahoman. So we're having a good time.
Well, we have not had more fun than we've had the last 3+ years since we began ours back in April of 2020. So that's good to hear. Now, do you know who Oklahoma is right now?
Yes, I think I do, actually. I think I do. They're a pretty good football team, and they're at least what they were last year. And when people hear that, they say, what are you talking about? They were 6-7 last year. But they were an okay football team last year. They just lost all their close games. You know, you can't lose all your close games. The close games are toss-up. Anybody can win a close game. And OU really, I think they played 5 one-possession games, and they lost them all. So they were really like a 8-5, 9-4 type team, still below OU standards. But they were a pretty good team, just happened to have, bad luck or ill fortune, whatever you want to call it. So that's about, I think that's the baseline for where they're at now. Now, if you're an optimist, you think, hey, go down and beat Texas, and all of a sudden you're in the playoff hunt, which would be true. I don't know if they can beat Texas, but I do think this is a pretty good Oklahoma team. Snake bit last year. So far this year, not so much snake bit.
Do you think that is comfort in the system, maturity? Is there one thing that stands out to you with this group that they are able to do that so far this year, is where last year if they were given an opportunity to trip, they tripped?
Yeah, well, 2 things. One is the schedule's been very easy. The easiest schedule in OU football history. 12 games on the schedule. 6 of the 12 games are against schools that were not in a Power 5 conference last year. They got 3 non-conference games. SMU was the toughest. They also get 3 of the 4 newcomers to the Big 12, Central Florida, Cincinnati, UCF. So schedule's incredibly easy. And as we know, the Big 12 is sort of down. It's a down year for the Big 12. But they have improved in some ways. They did a nice job in the portal. They went and got some good defensive players in the portal. So pretty clearly the defense should be better, and it certainly looks better. So that's good. Is it elite defense? I don't think so. We'll start finding out Saturday. But there is reason to think they're marginally better on the defensive side of the ball, and probably about as good on offense as they were.
Barry, what questions do you still have about this team? What are the glaring issues, and maybe glaring is too strong of a word even given what we've seen so far, but what are the pressing issues as you enter a game against the likes of Texas?
Well, they're not running the ball very well. That's never good.
Right.
When you, especially in the Cotton Bowl against Texas, the team that runs the ball better usually wins that game. So OU historically has run it pretty good against Texas. On occasion, they've sort of blossomed in the Cotton Bowl with the running game, either new wrinkles or just, sort of mature at the right time. I don't know if that'll happen Saturday. Tend to think it won't, but it could. That's the biggest thing. And just how they hold up in a tight game, because as we said, they haven't been playing tight games. Good chance this is a tight game. We'll see how they do.
You wrote a column and you spoke with Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas, and this is something you'll see. I don't know if it's Sarkisian who mentioned this or what, but bigger bodies, bigger people. And he mentioned that to you as well, as they've gotten bigger, and they're just mauling people. That doesn't mean they're flawless, but they're just like the offensive line is like this huge brick wall, and the defensive line can run, and they're also big. Is that kind of what you got out of it?
Yeah, what I asked Chris was, I said, you hired Steve Sarkisian, who had time in the SEC, and what did you guys need to do to prepare? I don't know that, at least at Norman and Austin, this has been a constant refrain is, are you SEC ready? Are you SEC ready? I personally think that's an overrated question. Nobody needs to get ready to play Florida and Tennessee. We're talking about Alabama and Georgia. So what we really mean is, are you Alabama ready? Are you Georgia ready? That kind of thing. And I asked him, so are you Alabama ready? Are you Georgia ready? And he said, when I hired Steve, he was actually already the coach, I guess. Yeah, when the news broke. But when he went to Steve and said, we're going to the SEC. What do we need to do? And Sarkisian said, we got to get bigger. Said those guys are just as fast as the Big 12, and they're bigger. So Sarkisian made it a point to get his guys bigger. And it's as you said, they're bigger on both lines, and that's a massive difference. And so if they do well playing this big, then that's going to be nice. That's going to be a nice prognostication for how the Horns could hold up in the SEC.
Is Oklahoma ready for Alabama and Georgia?
The answer is no. I don't even think Texas is, but I think both of them are ready for everybody else. The SEC is overrated. Doesn't mean they're not the best conference. It just means they're overrated. And they're overrated because people start saying, oh, Mississippi State's good. Kentucky's good. Kentucky's got a pretty good program. Mississippi State, been to a bowl game 12 straight years, those kind of things. But a lot of their success is manufactured. And the idea that going to Kentucky is tougher than going to Iowa State, well, that's just nonsense. The idea that, let's pick somebody, Arkansas is better than Texas Tech. Well, that doesn't hold up. The idea that Tennessee has something over TCU, it's not 1954. So, the difference in the SEC is Alabama and Georgia. So that's what's got to scare the Sooners and the Longhorns. And frankly, Texas's victory at Alabama is a big deal. I thought when that happened, that made me feel a lot better about Texas's chances in the SEC and a little bit better about OU, to be honest.
Barry, what have you thought about the growth of Danny Stutzman? I know he got banged up in this last game. It appears he's going to be okay, but I know that there was just a lot of hanging in general the last few years with the defense. But last season, him, having some growing pains of his own. But what have you seen? It seemed like he's gotten off to a great start.
Yeah, I think he's a legitimate playmaker. I don't think he's not in the pantheon of great OU linebackers. He's not Rod Schode or Brian Bosworth or Teddy Lehman.
Right.
The Sooner standards have fallen quite a bit, which I think everybody from Baylor to Iowa State knows that. So I think he's a really good player, and on a defense that's just starving for stars, there's been a migration towards Danny Stutzman. But he's what they need. He's a really good player making plays. You don't have to beat Brian Bosworth. They'll take somebody that just can tackle the tailback right now. So, and he's been doing that. So, I applaud it.
Barry, the pressure of being the head coach at Oklahoma, no matter who it's been, everybody's had to kind of, Bob Stoops took over a horrible program, and then second year wins the national title. And then Lincoln Riley takes over a program that was fine and healthy and really, really good. Where was Brent Venables, and how important is it for him to get a win against Texas, first of all, but also a team that's not just okay, as you mentioned, if they win a couple of close games at 8-4 or 9-4?
Yeah, beating Texas would really help because that's been the standard for a long time for Oklahoma. It's not that you have to beat Texas and everything else is fine, but if you do beat Texas, it means the program's in pretty good shape. Because winning that game is hard. And not too many Oklahoma coaches have survived long losing streaks against Texas. In fact, going back to World War II, there's only been one Oklahoma coach that lost his first two games against Texas, and that was Gary Gibbs. And generally speaking, you got to be successful against Texas to have a secured, nice run of success. So, he needs to win, particularly since he lost 49-0 last year. Yeah. If you go down there and lose to Texas last year, I don't know, 27-10 with a backup quarterback, people would say, well, yeah, you know what, he couldn't do much. But They got beat 49-0. They didn't even really run an offense. They ran the Wildcat good part of the day, and frankly, it was the best part of their offense. So they were just horsewhipped is what would happen. So you can't go down there and get dominated again, or all kinds of red flags come up. So I would recommend Brent, number one, win, and if you don't win, play close. And number three, if you don't win, but you're able to play close, win in the rematch in Arlington if you get one. So that's my advice for Brent Venables' job security.
So if you don't win, you better not lose again to anybody else to make sure that you're sitting there staring them in the face.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Get that chance to play them again. Yeah, by all means.
Barry, what I don't want to say scares you, but what stands out to you from Oklahoma's perspective about Texas that could be the most dangerous or the biggest issues that they run into on Saturday?
Well, I think Texas defense is pretty good. I think it's going to be hard to run. I mentioned the OU running game. They could get after Dylan Gabriel. He's pretty good on the run. A really good scrambler. Can make big plays, but he's also not very big. He could get battered up and bruised. And I think Texas could conceivably control the running game when the Horns have the ball. So if Texas can run and OU can't, there's not very many avenues to victory. That's generally a way you're going to go home a loser. So that to me is problematic. OU's kicking game has not been great. The field goal kicker is not overly reliable. This game comes down to a 44-yard field goal last minute. I don't know. I don't know that OU wants to be kicking it to try to win it. So I do think, though, that the circumstances were an aberration last year. So I do think the teams are closer in talent than the score showed. And I do think Venables has them believing in themselves and has them playing better defense. So I think it could be a good close game. And if you get to the fourth quarter of a close game, anything can happen.
Barry, if you don't mind, up in Stillwater, they're in a mess, and they were last year after a pretty good start. And Gundy has been there for nearly 2 decades with winning. Where is the heat meter, and what is the story, in your opinion, with Oklahoma State football?
Heat meter's high, but he's hard to fire culturally, and he's hard to fire economically. Got a big buyout, and he's a OSU legend in a lot of ways. And dang it, 11 and a half months ago, his team was ranked 9th in the country.
Yeah.
So it's been a precipitous fall. But here's basically what happened. OSU as a coach, it's not crazy about the new age college football.
Mm-hmm.
It's not crazy about the portal. Doesn't really want to work NIL much. And, that's okay. People can certainly feel that way. I think it's great if you feel that way. But it's not conducive to winning football games. And if you don't like the new ways, you got to get out of the game. OSU got hammered in the portal. I mean, they lost 8 starters. They lost 9 starters, actually. One of them was a starter they didn't mind losing. But they lost 9 starters in the portal, and they were all ball players. Here's where those guys went. A defensive end went to OU. A linebacker went to Southern Cal, and by the way, is the defensive captain at USC right now. A safety is starting at Notre Dame. A corner is starting at Washington. Spencer Sanders, the quarterback, went to Ole Miss. Dominic Richardson is down there at Baylor leading the Bears in rushing at tailback. They had an offensive tackle went to Brigham Young. 3 receivers left, and they went to Wisconsin, Houston, and TCU. Those are programs, most of them, those are big-time programs that bring in top-flight players. So that's a lot of talent. OSU brought in a bunch of talent, but it wasn't from Washington and Notre Dame and Oklahoma and Baylor and TCU. So they just got hammered in the portal. And we do a lot of good stories, in general. The media will come up. Michigan State 2 years ago, Colorado this year. Down not too far from you guys, Texas State. Mm-hmm. G.J. Kenny's done a nice job with that massive makeover. on the mid-major level. But the same thing happens in a negative way. Teams get wiped out in the portal, and that's a lot of what's going on at OSU. They don't have enough good ball players.
Barry, appreciate it. Enjoy the podcast life. It's great. And also, you continue to write the columns. We appreciate your time on Texas OU and also the Nuggets on Oklahoma State. And Mike Gundy, have a great week.
You bet. See you later.
That's Barry Trammell. Selloutcrowd.com is the website, does many columns for him, and also the podcast, as he mentioned, with Jenny Carlson.
I appreciated his honesty around Danny Stutzman because that's a guy that we know. We interviewed him at Media Days, and you know his father.
Yep.
And so we got to talk about that at Media Days. But just curious because you do see his name a lot, and his perspective on, well, they're just thirsty for a guy, and he's not, your typical OU linebacker stars, but he's been productive, and I do think that defense has taken some strides. But, I mean, this weekend we'll know a lot more. We will know a lot more about exactly how much better the defense is, where the offense is, and vice versa. I think not in the run game. I don't think Oklahoma will be able to challenge Texas the same way as they will be able to do vice versa. But I do think they will be a challenge in some ways for UT. But I like that he's not trying to sugarcoat it. Oh, yeah, he's Lombardi Award winner or anything. He's like, yeah, they're just kind of desperate for a guy, and he's been pretty good. So, that's a fair, bare bones way to say it, and I can appreciate that. But, yeah, this game's going to be something else. And I found it funny, and this is, why you can't really just rely on social media opinions, because if you were to think that, Brett Yormark being like, there's a crowd that if Brett Yormark was to be at the game would be like, what a moron, why is he here? But it's announced that he's not going to be at the game. They're like, oh, so he doesn't want to be here. And it's like, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I thought that was a funny back and forth over the last couple of days of, had he decided to show up, they would have booed him out of the building.
Yep.
As he's not showing up, he's not going to. And I saw dozens of comments about, well, that's why we're happy to be rid of, and so on and so forth, and all of that. And so, yeah, this is going to be a weird Big 12 send-off, but the end of an era for sure between Oklahoma and Texas as far as Big 12 schools.
My thoughts on Yormark in that game. Roger Goodell goes up to the podium on the stage every single year for the NFL draft, knowing that people are going to say everything they can about he and his family, even his mother, father, sister, brother.
Yep.
But he goes up there and he takes that verbal barrage, right? He's there, though, and he almost got to a point where it probably bothered him a little bit. Now he laughs it off. Now he just, go ahead, like one of these. And I'm not so sure that's not what Brett Yormark should do. Go into the belly of the beast with the two schools that are leaving. And especially Texas fans angry because of what he said with Joey McGuire and the luncheon and all
Which
that.
was blown way out of proportion.
But they're angry, but that's fine. But I think you go there. What does it hurt to be there at that game? It's a huge stadium. Probably most people wouldn't even know you're there unless they put the picture of you up on TV.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he should just show up and be the heel and just live it up and get the greatest booze he'll ever probably receive. Hopefully he'll ever receive in his lifetime.
Yeah.
Because if not, then wow, what would you have to do? But yeah, I think he could have been there and could have made it work, or at least made it comedic. But I was just kind of chuckling because it's like, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Well,
he really
especially
can't do
with Sankey coming in to be at both games.
And that's, I think, part of the reason why he's not is because he's kind of like saying, all right, here you go. This is going to be your thing now. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to have Sankey there and get a little preview, although he's obviously well-versed. And this game's going to be something else, man. I'm going Texas right now. I don't know about you guys. I know we'll get into picks later on the game, but I'm leaning Texas, and I don't really think I'm going to back off of that. But I'm so curious to see how this actually unfolds as far as the chess match between Sark and Venable's side of things goes. It's gonna be great.
I just still feel like, just based on what I've seen, and again, I've only watched Oklahoma. I have watched for more than a half. I've watched them quite a bit because I like watching Oklahoma. And I saw UT in person, so that's a little bit different. I just don't see how Oklahoma, despite some young talent, how they have enough firepower. And I did not like what I saw in the first half on defense against Iowa State because there were some, like I said, 43 or 4 plays that were very heavy, deep, like 40-plus yards or more.
That's okay. Texas doesn't have a lot of explosive plays.
No, they just throw it over the top whenever the hell they want to Mitchell or Worthy or Sanders, of course. He should be okay for the game. But we have plenty of more. We're going to have Rod Babers on later, Roger Wallace a little bit later on today, and a couple of more segments on Texas OU throughout the rest of this week through Friday, and then their game, of course, at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Now, when we come back, the highest paid coaches in college football. Dave Aranda's on this list, although private schools don't make that noted or make that public, but he's on the list, and it was lower than I thought it probably is, and I don't know if I can get the right answer on what it really is, but we're going to come back and give you like the top 10 highest paid coaches. You could probably name all 10. One of them's no longer the coach at a place. And then where are the Big 12 coaches too? Huh?
Why? Yeah, I didn't think about
gone.
That. Yeah, man.
And then Jeff, when I saw his name in the list, it was even more like, what the hell? But we'll get into that and more. Craig's off the radar. Paul's top 5. We'll have also John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist at 5:30. This is 365 Sports.
Price right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
.365 Sports here on this Tuesday afternoon. Tomorrow, Joey McGuire, Tim Brando, Mac Rhodes, who normally joins us on Tuesdays, will be with us tomorrow at 5. And there's a couple other names that we have that are in the pie and in the slots for tomorrow and our show, including Ricky Thompson as well. So, highest paid college football coaches in America. This is on USA Today. They released the list. There's all of the FBS coaches. Nick Saban at the top, not a surprise. Dabo, Kirby, there's Ryan Day. The first 3 guys have won national titles. Saban's won 100. Dabo's won twice, and Kirby has won twice. So those are the 3, 1, 2, and 3. Ryan Day, under a little bit of gun because he needs to beat Michigan. And then look at that one at number 5.
Yeah, that's just one of the biggest bag fumbles ever, at college football. And I don't know what comes of that story, as far as the legal side of it and what that ultimately turns into or how much of that he ever ends up seeing or doesn't see. But, man, you talk about just fumbling away a major opportunity that you work for your entire life. Big-time institution, big-time conference, big-time rivals, and big-time money. And, man, I can't even imagine what that feels like.
And if you wonder, Michigan State fumbled the ball too because they reacted to his first year and gave him a ton of money because they trusted him. At number 6, there's Garrett's favorite head coach and Brian Kelly. Look at the numbers, though. The numbers are still staggering how quickly it's escalated, no different than TV money, etc. Then Jimbo. Jimbo Fisher takes a lot of heat because of the contract, the guaranteed of $100 million. That wasn't his fault. That was A&M decided they were going to do that because they needed somebody to turn them around. They thought he could with the national championship pedigree. But it's not even the top 5 or 6 coaches as far as money, although there's not much difference.
No, but his contract made those other 2 happen for sure.
Very quickly,
top.
yeah.
The top 2.
And if somebody like, let's say, Stoops, they'll keep going up. Somebody else will get not overpaid, but will get a bump, and then that means the other 3 or 4 at the top will too.
Yeah, Jimbo just won 1, and of course Dabo won his after Jimbo, but Nick Saban was, he was always going to be the highest paid coach. But when Jimbo hit $9 million, you knew that Nick Saban was going to get more. Because obviously he's like $2 million doesn't even seem enough to be worth more than Jimbo Fisher. But Jimbo is the biggest conundrum ever because, and we had it there was a discussion on the chat room, year over year, he's not the players are getting developed. He's putting guys in the league, which means that he's got players that professionals think highly of. It's just in the moment of games, he's just not getting it done at the level at A&M. So it's very strange if you look at what's going on with him, and he's got an opportunity right now. This is the best opportunity to win the SEC West. We'll see if they can beat Alabama and keep going towards that goal this weekend. But as far as not having an Alabama and an LSU at the same time in that league that are heads and shoulders above everybody else, where it looks like the league is pretty close to each other, you have an opportunity to go and win it now, which is why you're getting paid $9.15 million to be at Texas A&M. So we'll see if they can do it.
Before you comment, Craig, none of these include the bonus structure. There are still bonuses for winning the conference or being in the college football playoff or winning the national title. This is their base number salary.
Yeah, these dudes aren't paying car payments.
No.
They're most of them have probably free housing as well. There's also...
We know Lincoln Riley does.
Yeah, there's millions of dollars unaccounted for on this. This is just their paychecks is all this is. There's millions and other stuff that goes along with that. I do think it'd be fascinating. People talk about, well, what about Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game to close out the year? What if A&M won the West right before those 2 come into town?
That would be great.
That would be
really would be cool.
That would be something to spice things up. To be able to have the Aggies finally break through and at least win the division for the first time the year as those 2 start to come in. I think would be big for that fan base to be able to say see, and would justify the Jimbo contract. I'm sure there's other ways to justify it, but ultimately, he's there to not only win, but win big. And winning big means cracking through and winning that division. But that's not where their eyes stop. They want grander and bigger than that. Part of the problem is, as good as they may be at various times, there's just always been a couple that just so happen to be in the division that are just as good, if not better. One in particular in Crimson, who they're facing this weekend, even though they've gotten them a couple times. That's been a juggernaut. So, if they're going to jump up and get it, this seems like the prime year to be able to do that where you're either on even footing or you're looking, at lower
and
to
home.
some of them.
And you're at home if you don't hyperventilate. By the way, somebody just texted me. Leave that up, Garrett, if you don't mind. And we're going to get to the Big 12 coaches here momentarily. Someone said, how come Lincoln Riley's not on that list? USC is a private school. And then they wanted to argue with me about USC being a private school. They're a private school.
Okay.
But his is probably the 10 to 11 million. In fact, I looked it up here, that the 10-year deal contracted $110 million with, of course, others along the way as far as stipends.
Unlimited use of the jet whenever he wants it. Not
helicopter.
Not just for recruiting. A lot of coaches can't take the jet their family on vacation because the jet is there for university use. No, he's got the jet whenever he wants it. So not just, hey, I've got to fly to Dallas to recruit a quarterback. He can take it to Cabo if he wants.
Mark Stoops, look at this number. For the head coach, this isn't basketball with Calipari. This is Mark Stoops. He's done a great job there. I did not realize he was at that level at $9 million. Heupel got that in a short amount of time, did he not? And, of course, Lane Kiffin now at Ole Miss is also at $9 million.
It's a lot of SEC schools. There's one non-Big Ten or SEC school on that list, and that's only going to grow. So I'd imagine with the
no, 7 of 10, SEC.
Yeah, but 9 of 10 with the Big Ten in the SEC.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd imagine that money's going to go up, and that's where you'll see, where do those contracts go? How high do those get? I mean, what are we looking at here in a few years? I would imagine it's going to be 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 again, because I just don't know how others are going to be able to justify. Probably can, they can do it right now, but once it's going to start climbing further and further, I think that's going to be, kind of a land of their own, and clearly it already is to some extent anyway. So that's where you could see more of that gap or that separation between those two and others developing. But yeah, surprised. It's Harbaugh make. I just off the top of my head, I don't know what he's making.
He's making 8.25.
So
right on the
he's
bottom.
on the cusp.
Mike Norvell, Florida State, $7.3 million. So there's some of those guys who are about to get a bump very quickly.
In the top 20, outside of
don't give any Big 12 schools.
Well, who's the number 10 after 9? Because Mel Tucker's going to be off this list.
James Franklin, $8.5 million at Penn State.
So there he goes.
So the
Harbaugh after that.
The only guy in the top 20, well, maybe two in the top 20 who have yet to really, kind of see where it's going are Billy Napier and Brent Venables, and they both make over $7 million apiece.
And Freeze is 20th.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, in year one at Auburn.
But now, he has more, like Napier and Venables have less skins on the wall than Hugh Freeze did when he was at Ole Miss.
So now you say, okay, where are the Big 12 schools? Where's Sarkisian? What about here are the Big 12 coaches and how they are ranked. At the very bottom, you'll see Kalani Sitake, Sonny Dykes, private schools. And there is no, although I'm sure that number is found somewhere, they're not rated. This is from USA Today. Mike Gundy, who we just discussed with Barry Trammell. Brent Venables, who we discussed as well. Kyle Whittingham, the ones who are in italics are incoming schools to the Big 12. Whittingham, Leipold, Sarkisian at 5.6. If they have the year it looks like they're going to have, let's say, 10-2 or better? And, of course, 10-2 would now be disappointing, but it would still be very, very good. He's about to get a big, big bump. Dion at 5.5, Lord knows what kind of bump he's about to get, plus whatever commission structure he's on. Then there's Kleiman, Holgerson, who's under fire, Joey McGuire, he'll be on with us tomorrow at just over $4 million. And then Matt Campbell, Neil Brown, Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State, Scott Satterfield, then there's Arizona's Jedfish, and then they have Dave Aranda, $3 million. I think that's higher than that. I have not been able to get confirmation on that. It's one of the few private schools they listed, and Gus Malzahn is the lowest paid Power 5 coach, I believe, based on the list I read, at number 66, $2.3 million.
And this last weekend notwithstanding, I think he's really underpaid. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Auburn is still paying a ton of his buyout. So UCF
can be an offset,
offset that money. So that's why. So that's not the only money he's getting every year or has. But eventually Gus Malzahn's going to get more than that because he's worth a lot more than being the lowest paid Power 5 coach.
Can you put that back up, Garrett? Because one thing here is where would Gundy and Venables, so they're 13 and 17, okay. Venables and Sarkisian, so they'd be 17th overall and 30th overall. Yeah, Sark's definitely going to get a bump here pretty soon, especially if this year keeps playing out the way that it is. But that's just it's a weird mutated version because it's the schools that aren't going to see each other. It's like everybody involved, and I think that's what the Big 12 meeting's going on. I saw somebody
Mac Rhodes is on tomorrow because he's at Big 12 meetings today.
But I saw somebody with a tweet talking about, it was like one of the school officials out there talking about how it's like everybody. So like that list, that's not really that's the Big 12 list for this year and next year.
Yep.
But that's not going to be the list next year because you'll take off Venables and Sarkisian. But yeah, they were making the comment of just it's an interesting thing because you have Texas and OU are there, all of the current schools are there, and the new ones that are coming in also have officials there. So it's like this big blob of all these ingoing, outgoing teams that are all converged for this one, I guess, probably stretch that are meeting. So I'd imagine that's pretty interesting and probably entertaining as well.
Yeah, you have the 2 outgoing, the 4 more incoming. It's just like this big, massive. It was the Houston president, I think, who had the note up on social media that everybody was there, and there is no discussion. I saw somebody react to, I would like to be a fly in the wall when it comes to what they're doing about Arizona, the realignment. Stop. Again, they're there, and Mac will join us tomorrow and be able to update us on a few of those things today or tomorrow at 5:10. All right, we come back with much more. Mac is not with us. Let's go to a couple other notes. First of all, who do you not see on the top 20 list that was surprising to you? Who do you not see? Just name a coach.
Well, we didn't show the top 20.
Okay, top 10. You asked about Sarkisian. Someone asked about Sarkisian. Harbaugh was 12. I'm going to leave it at the number, including Mel Tucker. Who is a coach not in the top 10 that you were interested in where they might be?
Marcus Freeman, but that's a private school.
Yep, there you go. Somebody asked about Shane Beamer in the chat. He's 24th, $6.1 million.
That's the bottom going rate in the SEC is $6 million.
Guess who the highest paid coach was and what he was being paid per year in 2013, 10 years ago?
Was it Bob Stoops?
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really so much the coach, but how much the highest paid coach 10 years ago was making. Nick Saban,
okay,
who was making $5.5 million. Mac Brown was $5.4.
Yeah, I felt like that was too obvious of an answer, but that was definitely the first thought in my head was Nick Saban. But I didn't feel like you'd ask that question if it was that obvious. But I guess it was. And $5 million, yeah. So they're doubling that up now. How many years later? 10 years later?
Yeah,
that's what you said. So yeah, that seems about right. So that would mean then another 5 years or so that top coaches will be making 15 or so, I guess. And, with the new TV contracts, particularly given that the most those top contracts are from 2 of the conferences and those 2 are going to be making the most money more than anybody, then, yeah, I think there's going to be, like I said a few moments ago, that increasing gap that we see in coaches' salaries. And it's probably going to be harder and harder for the, middle of the pack, so to speak, or the upper middle of the pack to fight off unwanted advances, as far as contract money goes. It's going to be harder to probably match when it starts to get up to the $15 million a year and justifying that on your budget versus somebody who's got a blank check basically. So that'll definitely be something to monitor. But this is also part of the reason why NIL is such a thing and such a topic is because of those big salaries that we've been looking over. It's hard to say, well, the star Caleb Williams doesn't deserve anything, but Lincoln Riley absolutely deserves $1 bajillion a year. It's like, wait a second. So I think that those salaries and the fact that they've bloated over the years are a direct result, directly have influenced the conversation about NIL and is one of those that you can't really get past along with it. Well, if a coach can leave, why can't a player leave? And I know there's a more nuanced argument for that, but when you do look at the money that they're making and the freedom they have for movement versus all the other people involved, it is kind of a sham. It is kind of a really one-sided operation that doesn't seem exactly fair, and that's why we've seen the events of the last couple of years.
All right, Paxton asked about Chris Kleiman. I mentioned Kleiman. He was at 38, $4.7 million. The Tulane coach is Willie Fritz, and he was down the list at 59, $2.8 million. Jeff Traylor, $2.5 million. Now, there's also, if you have not read the article, go to it on USA Today, the school buyout. What do you think Saban's school buyout is?
The school?
$44.8 million.
Yeah.
Dabo's $64 million. Kirby Smart, $92+ million.
Jeez. Well, he's worth every penny right now.
And Jimbo's now officially, with another year off of that 10-year click, at $77.5 million. These are some staggering numbers.
There's some intense pressure to win, but when the fallback is you get fired for $90 million, that doesn't make the pressure seem all that bad, honestly.
That's why I have so much respect for Coach O on the way out, and that when he's giving speeches now, he's he's just admitting like, yeah, I was upset about it until they said how much money they were going to give me. And then I was like, wait a minute, I still get all this, you kind of hits you like, oh, I still get all this money and I don't have to do anything?
Oh my gosh, I lost my job and it's embarrassing that I got fired. And here's $25 million to go retire briefly and then maybe come back if you want to. And if you don't, just stay retired. It's fine.
He will never have to go to the unemployment office and fill out all that paperwork and then like submit all the things you have to submit, which is like, honestly, even in any situation he has to go through that, it is just a strain on your dignity. He's never going to have to worry about that.
Mac's making $5 million, Mac Brown. There was one of the name that I thought, Kalen DeBoer at Washington's getting $4.2 million, $23 million buyout. He's got some other bonuses.
He's about to
make some cash, right?
Yes, he's about to get a raise.
About to make some money. Hope you enjoyed that. Appreciate you on some of the questions. Kirk Ferentz, who was in that list, is in the top 20, I believe.
No, he's at $7 million.
Yeah, he's in. Well, that may not even get you in the top 20. Yeah, where are we? Yeah, 18th at $7 million, $37 million buyout. Of course, Brian, the offensive coordinator, not sure what his status might be. So there you are with that. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Since 1943, they opened up their doors, and they have been fantastic, and now they're bigger, better, faster, stronger, but still the same to the core values with what they do as a business and who they are for you, the customer. Pipe, steel, and metal. But they're more than that. Pioneer Steel and Pipe has been able to get a bigger, better, faster, stronger facility, opened up back in December, and now they have more than twice the size of what they had, the original facility, allowing them new inventory, as well as higher quantities of inventory in a much more organized fashion. Plus, they will still give you that handshake of not just wanting you to come by and buy once, but be a repeat customer over and over generationally through whoever owns the business. Also, the standard long lengths and tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, they now carry several shorter and more convenient lengths of material for you to go pick it up and not have to worry about cutting it or having somebody else cut it for you or you doing that a part of the process. A 2,500 square foot showroom with over 1,000 new products in stock, welding supplies and hardware, do-it-yourself components for any project. And whether you're a pro contractor or a weekend warrior, they have what you need. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, pioneerboys.com.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Retired stockbroker asking on the chat, can I give the Big 12 buyouts, please? And I will. I'll try to get that here. I want to throw up a couple more nuggets here. First of all, this is from Mitch Sherman. We've had him on many times. He is with theathletic.com. He covers Nebraska. Nebraska center Ben Scott had showed a picture of him up behind a podium. Sunday practice in full pads. It didn't feel good, but you've got to go. You've got to go. You got to do it. And what you got to do what you got to do is what he's trying to say. Those are too many words that are small for me. Has he ever done that before on a day after a game? Never in my life. It was needed, though. Not sure what you heard about this, that Nebraska was absolutely pulverized. They never competed with Michigan. Doesn't mean they didn't play hard, but they were embarrassed at home in Lincoln, like they have been many times in the last 10 years. And they'd given Michigan a couple of times, 2 or 3 times in recent years, even when they were losing records. Pretty good. So they'd given them hell. Embarrassing. It's like, I cannot tell you, Paul, when Florida State, after they won the national title, and then they went through their times with your buddy Willie Taggart, and even early on, how many times did you go to DVR their game so that you could watch it when you got home from maybe doing a pregame show on the road or home, Baylor at home? How many times did you do that?
I didn't watch DVR or make time to watch. I watched them if I could, but I didn't. If I had to work a game, then they were on. I was like, oh, well, guess I'm going to miss it because it just wasn't worth watching until last year.
Garrett, did you ever DVR LSU as an option if you could not watch a pretty good game live?
No, I'm a weirdo. Like, if I can't watch the game live, I'm not going to watch it at all.
Man, I'm probably 2 for 85 when it comes to DVRing Nebraska football, and then actually getting home that night if Baylor played at 11 or 2:30 or 6:30 and watching them, DVR them every time, and I have 85 times not watched the replay.
So in the superstitious universe where the socks you wear matter, those things, don't DVR them.
No, I know.
I
stopped.
And here's the deal. You can go back and watch most games condensed on YouTube.
No, I know.
So if you want to watch
my oldest brother
it,
finally told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to get out of the superstition thing. It got too stupid.
Yeah.
It just got dumb.
So-
and I just had to convince myself that, like, dude, it doesn't matter what shirt you're wearing. It really does not matter. And I know for some, hey, still roll with it, and that's cool. But just for my own sanity, particularly with Oklahoma football, I had to just make a change and just say, you know what, I'm going to wear whatever, and whatever happens, happens. Maybe that's what happened last year. Is that when I started doing this?
Yeah.
No, because this year's been fine. But, yeah, what was your question? Because
it was about DVRing
How
games.
many times have you DVR'd, for example, OU? So when you got home from covering Baylor or what you were doing, even traveling, where you could watch them, through the game.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Okay, I'm 2 for 85.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it anymore. I don't care if I even think they're better.
I mean, I'm not going to wait to see the result because I know that there's probably, like, I can't look at Twitter. I can't that's not going to happen. I can't look at anything, text messages. That's, so I'm not going to be able to do that for a prolonged period of time to actually be able to watch the full game and not learn the result. So kind of already learning the result, I think, has ruined it. Although, nowadays you can just normally find a replay, or you can get the highlights, like you said, where you get the full action. Matter of fact, I went and rewatched the Baylor UCF game in about 20 minutes, twice or 3 times, and did it in a very short amount of time because you could just zip through without all the commercials and all the other, nonsense that comes with it. So that's typically what I would do if I have to miss a game.
But Paxton, by the way, give Rule 3 years. I think that's what I think they're ready to. I think they need to, even if they don't want to, even if they go 4-8 this year.
The big thing is, okay, when you give him that 3 years, is there going to be more buzz around him after that 3 years, or is now they're going to drill down and stay? And I think that's probably going to be the case here. But if they've got, it's a monumentally tougher task next year than it is this year because
you add USC,
adding those 4 teams, right?
UCLA, and Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah, and they're probably going to have to play at least 2 of them, in addition to the schedule that right now they're not doing all that great with.
Can you imagine having a year if you're in the Big Ten where you get, and Nebraska's been known to get that one, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, USC, Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Yeah. I don't think, because of their model, I don't think it will, but they're going to get at least 2 of them, right? So Nebraska's going to play USC and say Washington next year or somebody like that. That's how it's going to work out. And because here's the other thing, especially in year 1 of this new league, since the Big Ten is winning the brand war over the expansion thing, you're going to want to make sure, especially early on, that your brands, which Nebraska is one, are playing other brands. So maybe they get lucky and that's UCLA, who's the worst of those 4 right now, and that's not saying much because they're pretty darn good too.
They would thump Nebraska pretty easily.
Based on his history, next year, congrats on 7 wins, Nebraska.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it's worked.
Yep.
If they don't have that, then I would say, okay, what does the schedule look like? What does the injury situation look like? But I would need to, and I really like Matt Rule. I think that he did a great job at Baylor. I know he wasn't everybody's favorite per se, but that was a really tough time for everyone around the program, and I think he navigated it pretty well, all things considered. I know that it left a really bad taste in people's mouths when they're sitting to, getting ready to play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which Georgia was about to lift off the next year as far as what they became. But they were in the process of becoming that. And, that entire week in New Orleans was basically marred by constant speculation about him and the New York Jets. The entire week. I don't know from a player's perspective how much they were able to enjoy it or block that out. And, it didn't affect the result. They weren't going to beat Georgia anyways. But that was a tough time. And regardless of that, the Carolina situation obviously didn't work out well. But I feel like, guys, he's got to prove something now. The difference in this Nebraska job versus the other jobs is that if he's not producing by year 3, no one's coming to knock on the door anymore and just offer up $1 kajillion of guaranteed money like the Panthers owner did.
Yeah, he gets $5.5 million at Nebraska.
He's kind of at the spot where he's now. He's got to prove it. In my opinion, he's got to prove that he would be deserving of an Ohio State to come calling, or a Penn State, his alma mater, to come calling. With Temple, hey, you started to get good. You got out of there after winning 10 games. That's understandable. You go to Baylor. Tough time, but it was a bigger job, and you do really well there, and you get them up to double-digit wins, and then you leave, and then a couple years in the NFL, and that obviously didn't go the way that you like. But he's not going to get the NFL offer again anytime in the foreseeable future, if ever, based on what we saw already. And so, you're about. It doesn't get much bigger than Nebraska. He's kind of at the precipice of where he's going to be, and there's not a bigger dog that's going to come barking here in a couple of years if they win 10 games in year 3 like he has elsewhere. That's going to be banging down his door. But you know what? If they are winning 10 games in Nebraska, and he's done that for a 3rd time, he's now done it at a program like that and done it in the Big Ten, then there will be. But, we got to get there first.
He needs to win.
Yeah.
He needs to win. Now, one more thing. This is from Stuart Mandel. Craig's off the radar around the corner. So we know about how streaming is taking over, not all, but a chunk. It depends on what conference. But even the Big Ten will have a streaming deal with Peacock. We know what the Big 12 will have ESPN Plus involved. And we know what the Pac-12 was trying to get done, but would have been all streaming. Stuart Mandel. I'm not sure people have grasped yet that all your teams are going to have games on streaming services soon, including an NFL wildcard game this year that will be on Peacock.
Yeah.
He brought this up because of a tweet from, I forgot who it was, Ohio State Purdue fans were upset, football fans, about the game they're going to have will be on Peacock. One of the quotes was, the fourth-ranked team in the country is streaming and not on an actual channel. This is laughable. That is what's going to happen, and also why you're getting the kind of money you're getting in these media deals.
Well, how does the streaming service expect to draw people in if they cannot play a couple of cards in the hand where we would like Ohio State, please? Thank you. We're taking that.
No, you're right.
Because otherwise, if I'm NBC Universal who owns Peacock and I'm making this deal with the Big Ten, if the Big Ten says, listen, you're getting the scraps no matter what, no matter who that is year over year in this deal, they're going to be like, well, no, then how are we going to get people to sign up for it if the most popular teams don't wind up on it? And the team with the second largest living alumni base in the country.
Yep.
If we can't get that, because that's why they're making the deal with the Big Ten, then we'll just go to a league that will give us their best teams on it so that we can use that to market ourselves.
Yep.
So, and Stuart's right. It's all going, like, everything's going to be on streaming. The NFL's about to be on streaming. The NFL is technically on it now because that's how you have to get the NFL Sunday ticket if you didn't have it before. So, yeah,
Thursday night on Amazon.
Major League Baseball's been streaming their games for years.
Yep.
You know, so I don't know.
I initially was like, oh, God. And I didn't like some of the production of ESPN Plus. I've gotten used to it. And there are like 19 college basketball games, men's basketball games from Big 12, the Big Ten that will be on Peacock. They just released that schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. I mean, that has seemed the direction that we're going for a while now. I think, I don't know if his intention was to also drum up the feelings about the Pac-12 and what their current negotiations were like, where that was a big part of the topic and a big part of the reason that other schools involved were not so excited about it. Now, we don't know the exact arrangement. We know pretty good details, but yeah, I mean, I don't think we're to where like the Pac was going to be, where it was like mostly streaming. I don't know if everybody's all ready to dive in that far, but yeah, there are going to be a lot of games now that are going to be more and more on those services to justify those services' existence in some ways, or get the money needed for those services. So yeah, they're going to throw an Ohio State game on Peacock, and that's just going to be the way of the world, and has been and will continue to be probably more so. But yeah, like the minute they start throwing Ohio State, Michigan and stuff on there, that's when we've reached like I mean, I don't know when we'd ever even get to that point or how far away that would be, but that's when I think it'd be a little crazy. But for the alternative, I mean, the Big 12, half their games are on ESPN Plus. I mean, it's the same thing.
A couple of games a weekend, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's more than a couple. It's
football.
Yeah, it's like half the league.
On
some weekends,
maybe a non-conference play.
Yeah, okay, some weekends it is like half the league a non-conference play. Yeah,
okay.
Like non-conference play, we can distinguish that. Yeah,
this week. I believe maybe TCU, Iowa State. I'm not sure which one they picked for that one.
Non-conference, definitely. Baylor, Long Island's not going on prime or any major cable. Yeah, so on and so forth. But yeah, that's going to be a fascinating next few years as far as how we're watching games and devouring them. And it does make me think of the Pac-12 and their negotiations and how they were trying to be forward-thinking and lean into streaming. And I guess it was just a little bit too much too soon. And maybe if it's 2 or 3 years down the line, their contract comes up, maybe it's a different story and they're in the right place, right time. But yeah, I just feel like they were a little too heavy on that side and people aren't quite ready for that, or the schools aren't ready for that.
Super chat from Chris. Thank you. I just heard the Steelers have signed Denzel Mims. I know Pittsburgh is a mess with Matt Canada. What do you think about his future? He's got to have to prove it.
He's got to
tremendous
play.
Talent.
He's hurt.
Not. He's always hurt, or he's not playing. And yet, I thought again maybe they would break the streak of Baylor wide receivers who have kind of at times been okay and then just disappeared or just never did materialize. And in this case, I hope he does. Like the guy, and I remember the come to Jesus that I think an NFL scout had with him after his sophomore or junior year, and he ended up having a great year. But his last year,
he's a great human being, really good young man, and I wish nothing but success for him. But he's never been fully healthy or healthy for long stretches of time, and so he's got a lot of talent. But again, it's all about health, and the NFL will kind of eat you up, and so yeah, best of luck to him.
Yeah, there was one of my off-the-radar notes, but that's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
That was a super chat.
Super chat's worth it. That's fine. I think don't get your hopes up. that he's going to come in and make a big impact. But I do think he's a talented young man. But when, you don't work out in New York and you're a pretty high draft pick, you can say, okay, well, it's the Jets. Look how dysfunctional they are and this and that. But then when you go to the Lions, who are clearly on a nice trajectory right now, and they dismiss you pretty quickly.
Yep.
It's not them, it's you. And so I don't know what needs to kick in for Denzel. I think the talent level is there. I don't know, about the rest of it and how all that operates and what's prevented him from having more of an impact. But at this stage, hope for the best, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. And I mean that respectfully towards him. It's just, it's the nature of his career so far.
Yep. Somebody asked in the chat, last question before we go off the radar. Brent Venables' buyout is $30 million. Steve Sarkisian's is $12 million, or a little bit under $13 million. I'm going to give Chris Kleiman's $29 million. Lance Leipold, $27 million. Holgerson's $14 million. I'll go to a couple more. Joey McGuire, almost $16 million. Matt Campbell, $15 million. And Scott Satterfield is nearly $19 million. Those are just some of the buyouts from some of the schools. There was no information on Sataki, again, Aranda, and also TCU and Sonny Dykes on that information. Private schools. They don't have to divulge it.
They're not private schools.
No, TCU doesn't want to be, right? Yeah. All right, so there you go with that. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak, and off the radar, baseball playoffs have begun. Numbers are out for college football games, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. I'm having a issue with my car horn. It sounds like it's dying out, and it's just not. It doesn't have the volume it's supposed to have. It's a problem, especially when I was driving home from Dallas this past weekend, and there were a couple times I kind of needed to use my car horn because somebody wasn't paying attention, and they were getting in my way, and I needed to use my car horn, and I wasn't able to use it properly. So I need to go over to Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, and get it looked at. And that's what you can do as well. No matter what you're looking for, whether it's getting your car serviced, getting something like the car horn fixed or new tires, or if it's just simply going over there to get a brand new or pre-owned vehicle, they can get that done for you, and they will do it with the best customer service in the area. That's something they prided themselves on for over 20 years in Central Texas. Right now, though, out in front of the dealership, the highway out front, Highway 6, is an absolute mess. A lot of construction going on as they're expanding that highway. So it's a little bit more of a task to get there. Not impossible, not too stressful, but it's a little more of a test. They want to make it worth your while. And right now, qualified buyers can save over $7,000 on a new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500 and can finance for 0.9% financing for qualified buyers. They've got dozens of Sierras on the lot. They have the inventory. They have the price. They have the financing to get you in a new GMC Sierra today. And if you're a military or first responder, you can save an additional $500. They also have the Buicks, a combination of luxury and value like no other SUV. First class, top of the line, ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers Buick. The Buicks offer amazing value. Right now, save $5,000 on a new full-size 2023 Buick Enclave, or save $4,000 on a 2023 midsize Buick Envision. And again, military and first responders can save an additional $500. They're also big when it comes to trading your vehicles. They trade for the best. So if you're in the market for a pre-owned car, not looking to buy new, they've got a lot full of quality pre-owned vehicles that are there for you to check out. And 100% credit approval is always their financing goal. But going back to the start of this and talking about the car horn and needing to get that set up, they also have an award-winning service department that I've entrusted before when I've had a couple of incidents and my car has come out like brand new in a quick amount of time and with great customer service. And that's what they promise you as well, as they stand by to keep you on the road. They can't also, or the service department also can't be beat on tires. They right now are offering a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. So service your car or truck with the people you can count on over at Richard Carr. In business for 24 years in Central Texas. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome in. Welcome back. Time for Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Tuesdays, Thursdays around 4:45. Sit down and take a look at just a grab bag of headlines and stories that are going on, things that we might not otherwise touch on. And although in this particular case with the story I'll start off with, we would probably talk about this outside of this segment, but I kind of just grabbed control of that a year or two ago, and now I've made it part of this segment, and that is the TV ratings, which is not the biggest deal in the world, but it's always fun to just look at kind of what the numbers are across college football and later on in the NFL as well. But coming off of this last weekend, and this is for no other reasons than just really truly interest in seeing who's drawing eyeballs and what kind of games are at the top of the list each week. One thing that has been fascinating and has interrupted the status quo of where it would always be Ohio State or Texas or just name the same 5 or 10 programs always at the top of this list. That has experienced a change-up this year because of one man by the name of Deion Sanders and his Colorado Buffaloes. And once again, Colorado on top of the television ratings, the highest watched game of the weekend in Week 5, 7.24 million for their home contest at noon on Saturday against USC, the only game to crack 7 million viewers. And that's now, 4 out of 5 weeks, I believe, that they've had the highest ranked game or close to it.
And it had the highest ranked game of the week when it was played at 9 o'clock in the morning, LA time, where it was being played.
The only one that was not won was the Nebraska game, and I think that was Texas, Alabama.
Yeah, so
Colorado was it was in Boulder.
Oh, it was in Boulder.
Yeah.
Also, but the team that was playing in it, the market that would have been most interested, LA, the major market you want.
Right.
It was 9 o'clock in the morning. For 10 o'clock in the morning in Colorado. So those, it's still with the. You would think that sometimes the LA market would not get up in the morning and watch that. They clearly did because that market drives a lot of ratings numbers, which is why you get a World Series game on the East Coast that starts at 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, no, they're pulling in big eyeballs, and they have been near the top of that list nearly every week at this point. But they had the top game this week with USC. 7.24 million people on Fox. Georgia Auburn pulled in 6.4 million over on CBS. Pretty competitive game there. Notre Dame Duke, 7:30 on ABC, 5.32 million. Those were your top three contests, and the only ones to crack 5 million in that 4 million range, 4.48. You had Michigan and Nebraska, the 3:30 kick over on Fox. So 4.48 there, pretty healthy number. LSU Ole Miss, 372 million. Alabama Mississippi State, 335 million. And then you got to Kansas, Texas at 3.32 million. And say what you want about Texas and Oklahoma and all that, but there is going to be a massive drop-off when you have actually two teams who are basically a guaranteed 2 million plus every single time they lace them up, no matter where, no matter when. That is going to be a big boost for the SEC, who's already dominating, as I mentioned, Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Kentucky, all a part of the top 10. And actually a very interesting note in the tweet that I grabbed this from, Brett McMurphy had a screen cap of it as well, but somebody asked where's the some of the other SEC games, why are they not at the top? Like, I think the example was South Carolina, Tennessee, which is a primetime game. Well, those are on SEC Network. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have the Nielsen ratings, and that's why those wouldn't be there. Just mentioning that for anybody curious about, where's this? Well, it's on the SEC Network, so they don't exactly track that the same way. They're not Nielsen rated. So.
Where was Michigan, Nebraska?
Michigan, Nebraska was number 4 overall, 4.48 million. I thought I mentioned them.
The power of Nebraska football.
Yeah, I mean, that's another school that
Michigan football, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
but they do draw. They're always pretty high up there.
Yeah. So a lot of SEC there, but USC Colorado, the top game in week number 5, again, 7.24 million, a little less than a million more than Georgia and Auburn. The highest rated Big 12 game was Kansas and Texas. The next highest ranked game behind that was Cincinnati and BYU, 1.23 million on that Friday night game out in Provo. But as far as the future goes, just above that, Utah and Oregon State drew 1.28 million. So Utah and Utah alone for now coming into the Big 12 next year. But those are just some of the offerings. A lot of games that didn't crack. Like Iowa State, Oklahoma actually didn't crack 1 million viewers.
Yeah, I saw 700,000 or so.
No, we're just talking about how that was almost an automatic, but actually it wasn't in this case. So they had a little over 800,000 for that one. So anyways, interesting just to kind of see the ratings unfold. But USC, Colorado, Georgia, Auburn, Notre Dame, Duke, those were your top 3, your gold, silver, and bronze this week as far as the highest rated games go. Now, meanwhile,
I just want to say about the future Big 12, outside of the 7 million average televisions a week that Dion will bring in with him.
That'll make up for it, yeah.
Outside of that, the hope with the rest of the league is that it's so good year after year that you'll tune in because you know they're going to be good games.
Yeah, and competitive. By the way, when we had Barry Trammell on, do you know what he called the Cougars who are from Provo? Do you remember what he said about who they were? What did they say, Garrett?
I'm not saying it because I have to pay, but
Yeah.
What, you hear what he said?
But he's also...
He's my age.
But he's also, he's also old.
Yeah, so I guess it was a thing back in the 70s.
I love Barry, and I have no problem. I'll tell him he's old.
Yeah.
Paul, you would actually enjoy this, though. I didn't. You'll have to tell me, I guess, during the commercial break when
he called the university in Provo by its former full name.
Oh, okay.
The way I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just used to hearing it now, so it didn't make me think about it at all. But Colorado, and the reason I bring this up, because you'll like this, Paul, and Florida State are the only teams with multiple top 10 games as far as the ratings go. Florida State with 2, Colorado 5 out of 5. There's the Dion effect that you hope.
Oh, and look, Florida State can take credit for the Colorado ones, too, because they gave the world Dion.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Even though he doesn't claim them. Getting the whole thing there.
Yeah.
But
He will again one day.
Yeah, it doesn't claim him as a grad or alum, right? Or alum. That's where the sticking point is. So, yeah, anyways, there's a little look at the ratings, and you hope that Dion sticks around if you're Brett Yormark and company and offsets the Oklahoma-Texas loss, but we'll see how that goes in the long run. Meanwhile, going on right now, the Texas Rangers are up 1-0 as the postseason gets underway, winning Game 1 against Tampa Bay just moments ago. And, man, this was a game that they pretty much stayed in control of, but the Rangers getting it done just a few moments ago. Final score 4-0 in Tampa as they get the win with Jordan Montgomery picking up the W on the mound. And now we'll see where it goes from here, but pretty dominant effort by the Rangers as far as this game one goes, and still got to do some more, but man, that feels good. I haven't experienced that in what feels like quite a long time as a Rangers fan, so pretty awesome there. Thoughts on the Rangers getting the first win in this series?
Well, Montgomery was great. He was fantastic. He made a couple of defensive plays early in the game, dove for a pop-up down the line with a possible collision. They still had opportunities to add to it, but Leclerc and Chapman came in and finished the job. And Chapman in the 8th and Leclerc in the 9th, and they're on to game 2.
I mean, get a shutout is absolutely huge, and especially worrying about that bullpen. And they had some missed opportunities. They probably could have scored some more insurance runs. So to win 4-0 and to not have a botch at the end of the game like they've become accustomed to quite too often, that was great to see. So Rangers win game number 1 tomorrow at 2:08 Central Time. Game number 2 will get underway in Tampa, the whole series in Tampa, and then game 3, if necessary, on Thursday, also at 2:08 out in Tampa. So that is where we sit as far as the fighting Texas Rangers go, and a lot more playoff baseball to go the rest of the way. Also got right now underway in the bottom of the 4th, the Minnesota Twins up 3-0 currently on the Toronto Blue Jays. So game 1 of the AL wild card there. Later on tonight, you will have the Diamondbacks at the Brewers. That starts at just after 6 o'clock Central. NL wild card game 1 on ESPN2, and on main ESPN just after 7 o'clock Central, the Marlins at the Phillies, the other side of the NL wild card. So Rangers in the books, lead 1-0. Minnesota leading Toronto right now, nearly halfway through there, and then a couple of National League games later on tonight. And playoff baseball is here, boys, and it's good to have it.
Congratulations to the Marlins on making the playoffs for the first time in their history with really honestly no, like the 2 times they won the World Series, they just went out and bought and traded and whatever you can do to win it. There's no right way, but they did this without any kind of big name, like huge, like spending out their minds for all the other parts of their team. That they're fun. Look, Luis Arez, their second baseman, is one of the best hitters in the league. He's always on base. He's like Ichiro, where you just hit. Jazz Chisholm injured for a lot of the year, but a fun player to watch. Brian De La Cruz had a really good year. So yeah, they're a good team.
When did the Red Sox play? I didn't see them on the list.
They came in line. There's 3 teams from their division. God. 3 teams from their division in the playoffs.
We just haven't talked much Red Sox. I don't mean to poke the bear, but
Mariners didn't make it.
Yeah. At least the Yankees aren't great too, right? I mean, is there any solace in that, or is that one of those? That's like a cheap tactic as a fan.
They still finished ahead of them.
Yeah.
Yes, they did make the playoffs, but they still finished ahead of the Red Sox.
Good on you.
A lot of teams did.
And then at the end of the year, the reason that they're not in this position came in and was like, yeah, I really love Boston, I miss it, and you're like, ah.
8 teams in the. Actually, might have been more in the American League were ahead of the Red Sox.
That's too bad. But, he's had experiences for a lifetime already as a Red Sox fan. I, as a Rangers fan, have been through the torture rack and have been too close to even try to remember anymore. I don't like to think back to how close they were at one point in time to being World Series champions, but hey, they're one step closer to that, I suppose. Long way to go, though. So you got a lot of baseball on right now and later on tonight, and I appreciate Mark Johnson, a listener of the show, who passed this along to me. I made mention last week about how we were about to hit a stretch where there's going to be like a billion days in a row with a football game on TV. Well, tonight is the last night for a while. There will be no football. College football will be back tomorrow, and beginning tomorrow through November 22nd, there will be 50 straight days of football on TV. So not tonight, but beginning tomorrow, 50 straight days where there will be football on television based on what Mark Johnson said.
Well, yeah, because Wednesday you have 2 games. College, obviously, we'll start to have those Wednesday games. I guess even earlier than that, perhaps even Tuesday games. Pro football is Thursday.
Not this week, though.
Yeah, no. Thursday, Saturday? No, Thursday, Sunday, Monday.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day for the next 50 days, like I said. You're going to have Friday games. You're going to have Wednesday games. You're going to have Monday, Tuesday, all that. Tonight the last night without that. So if you're just a football junkie, you do have that heading your way. And not much in the way of, big, personnel notes or anything like that. I was going to mention once again, though, former Baylor wide receiver, former Lions and Jets wide receiver Denzel Mims did sign to the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad. He had an ankle injury in Lions camp, but I mean that wasn't the full tell where he would have made the team if not for that. That wasn't the case, but I am glad to see him getting another opportunity. So I do think that that's absolutely great. And I don't want to be like the rest of the sports media and bring up a certain pop star who we've had a million mentions of on almost a daily basis when it comes to discussion about the NFL. But there was a pretty interesting note from Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs and the Jets. Taylor Swift was there. You've heard all about her and Travis Kelce and all of that. But what was interesting to note from Sports Media Watch is there were 27 million viewers. That's insane, dude. But 27 million viewers, and they are able to track through Adobe Analytics streaming viewers now. Nearly had 2 million viewers that were streaming watching that game. Second largest audience of the NFL season, although at that point they didn't have the rest of the slate. But pretty safe to say that's probably the most watched game, right? Is that game. But what's notable about it and why you're probably seeing Taylor Swift to death on your television screens or for your pleasure, she's obviously got tons and tons of fans. But what is noticeable about that is the demographics. As a part of that 27 million unusually strong growth, demos of girls 12 to 17 up 53% in viewers.
Jesus.
Women 18 to 24 up 24% in viewers, and women 35 plus up 34% in viewers. All that adding up to 2 million additional female viewers alone that watched Sunday Night Football. So there you go, the power of the Swifties. And if you're one of those who I've seen that are like, I'm tired of it's not going anywhere, buddy. Like the NFL is all in on this, and you can tell by the way that it's all being marketed.
They needed a little spark.
They don't. Here's the thing: they don't care that it's Taylor Swift. Like they're just attaching themselves to the person who's like maybe single-handedly restarting the U.S. economy. And Taylor Swift, for God's sakes. So look, if that's what's going to work, and they're going to ride that, And look, as a low-level Swiftie myself, I'm not a low level. I'm like at the bottom level. I respect the hustle, but just lean into it. Who cares?
Oh, well, they clearly are, and it's paid off with
They're the worst at leaning into it. They don't even need to lean into it. It's already good as it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just taking them where they're already a powerhouse and taking it up another notch, and that's why I thought it was interesting to take a look at the female viewers and the huge jumps that were there. So a lot of TV talk, typically on a Tuesday during the football season. We're going to have that, and not much in the way of like massive headlines today, so I'll leave it there for now. There's a few things off the radar.
And here's this.
God, stop.
I think it's going to be funny if Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, when they break up, and she writes 100 songs about him, how many people will now hate watch the Chiefs because they're like, boo, Travis, how could you do this to poor Taylor?
Dude, I'm not going to doubt the power of that fandom. So, yeah, I mean, anything's possible. And obviously the NFL is loving what they're seeing because female viewers have skyrocketed 2 million plus. And that's her star power right there. So, yeah, there's a few things off the radar.
All right, we will come back with a little bit into the 5 o'clock hour. Roger Wallace, UT color analyst, also television down in Austin. And then at 5:30, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain, his thoughts about, how about C.J. Stroud with the Texans and what he's done, plus his thoughts on the baseball postseason, too. This is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. Every week, in fact, you can go on the link. We always have it up where you can predict college football games this weekend. Thanks to Christian McCollum. He puts it up on the site, and we'll pin it to the chat room here in a minute if you've forgotten about it. And the winner of the prediction contest, Scotty B, this past week, gets $100 gift card from TexasBeefHouse.com. What is TexasBeefHouse.com? They're located just outside of Tyler and White House, yes, the hometown of the great Patrick Mahomes. They have not just Wagyu beef, aged Wagyu beef. Aged beef that is as good as it can possibly be, and they do that from start to finish, from with the breeding all the way to the where they, of course, have the butcher shop, too. Texas Beef House focuses on resources, developing the best Wagyu genetics, producing the highest quality of beef. Aged beef is not typically available to the public because it's added cost and time. At Texas Beef House, they age the entire beef and not just the choices, cuts of steak, resulting in an improved texture, flavor of all of their beef. We've met the Duvall family. We've met Will Denton, who's a part of how we got together. They were at our tailgate that we did before the game against the University of Utah. Utah. And the unbelievable crowd, and everybody walked away. Man, how do I find that? TexasBeefHouse.com is where you can find it. They'll have a number if you want to contact Samantha Duvall. Tailgating beef, tailgating product, it's brisket or it's tri-tip or it's steaks or it's sausage or more at TexasBeefHouse.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person. You can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. And we're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40-pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time, with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
We have had Roger Wallace, UT color analyst for UT Radio, on with us a handful of times already this year, right before Alabama, right after Alabama, and other games they've played. He joins us again as, of course, Texas OU coming up this weekend in Dallas. Raj, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. They are taking care of business. This team seems to be at Texas focused on the old corny stuff, like one game at a time, worry about right now. And maybe before they weren't that way. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'll throw another one at you, David. Business-like. You can throw that cliche because they're saying, another championship week and things like that. And it's kind of the way they play. They haven't dazzled anyone, maybe Alabama, because of the way it kind of unfolded, where they finally figured out the deep ball and just winning there, I think, surprised a lot of people. But, yeah, they're finding a lot of different ways to do it, and the backbone of this team is that defense. And again, 24 against Alabama. Nobody else has scored over 14 points against them.
Roger, they keep on, like, in second halves especially. Maybe they don't have the first half they have, and then they just turn on the jets when they come out. What do you think is because I don't think it's halftime adjustments. Do you think it's just getting to know, like, what's coming at them a little bit better?
Yeah, it's really a strange phenomenon. The only one that didn't happen that way was the one up there in Waco against Baylor, where they did it in the first half, but it still was one of those 3 touchdown barrages in less than like 12 game minutes. But yeah, they've done an amazing job in the second half of finding one of those little avalanches of 3 touchdowns, getting stops, and figuring out some rhythm on offense. And I don't know how you point to anything other than just kind of executing, and then you bust a big play like Jonathan Brooks did. That helps when you can hit some home runs along the way and not have to grind out 15-play drives.
Roger, I don't know that running back was ever like a extreme concern by any means. I know they had confidence in Jonathan Brooks and then some of the other guys in that backfield, and they've recruited well at that position. But how important has it been to see Brooks in particular just explode over these last 3 weeks, and Saturday being the highlight of those?
Yeah, and I think your point is well taken because of got spoiled with really 2 incredible years of Bijan Robinson. So you had to figure there's going to be a drop off between that, and then you throw in what Roschon Johnson did last year. But Bijan's got 3 straight 100-yard games, and now a 200. Jonathan Brooks now a 200-yard game, and C.J. Baxter seemingly is going to be healthy for back-to-back games. He's been a nice compliment. I think that points to the offensive line too, guys. I mean, that's the group that had to improve in the last couple of years. Every team will tell you, you build from the inside out on the 2 lines, and that's the group that had to improve, and it has. So that makes life a lot easier for running backs. But then, Brooks has maybe been a little more dynamic than they expected.
Roger, there's been a lot of discussion because they were able to bring in an entire freshman class of offensive linemen when they had the NIL deal. But this current starting group, I believe 3 of them were before that. Is that correct? Or are there more than 3 of the starting 5?
Yeah, well, Christian Jones, I think he was there with Mac. Right. 6-year guy. And then Jake Majors as well. Right now, the way it's constructed, Hayden Connor was not part of that freshman group. But, yeah, you have DJ Campbell and Kelvin Banks. So you're right. And Cole Hudson probably would be starting at guard, but he got nicked up. So it's been a combination of that group that you alluded to, and then some guy, Christian Jones coming back for a 6th year was huge, and then having that veteran in the middle at Jake Majors as well.
Sarkisian made a comment, I believe it was yesterday during his press conference, and someone who covers Texas for one of the websites put it up, that he said, and you could tell me exactly, that players are now coming to be at the 40 acres for a reason, for the right reason. What do you think he meant by that?
Yeah, that was one there. I guess you could interpret it a lot of different ways, but I think he thinks that they've developed a culture of just, one common goal and all the cliches that you would use when things are rolling. And again, when things are rolling, everything's great, the culture's great, and then you hit a bump in the road and suddenly you have to look at some things. But I think he just thinks his staff has pointed out guys that they think fit all that. And, they go back to that game 2 years ago against Kansas when they lost and kept them out of a bowl game. And he said before this year's Kansas game that maybe that told them some things in a painful way that they needed to do with this roster. But I don't know if it was one specific thing, David, about, the right reason other than, that common goal. And some guys might come for NIL opportunities. Some guys might come because they've dreamt of being a Longhorn all their life, and other guys might come strictly because of Sark. So maybe those are all the right reasons.
Roger, if they had a weakness, what would you say it is right now?
Well, they've been a little inconsistent in the kicking game. You know, Bert Auburn's been a little inconsistent. And then, you know, they've had some slow starts, and eventually that can catch up. They got gashed a little bit by Kansas, and they righted it. But if Kansas has Jalen Daniels and Texas is off to a slower start on offense, who knows what happens there. Quinn Ewers has been good, but still, other than Alabama, they haven't had a lot of success throwing the ball over the top. They try, but you know, whether the defense is saying, okay, you're not going to get over the top, or it's missed opportunities. So, but right now, you know, you can nitpick because they are 5-0 and they have won every game by double figures. But you know, they'll have some fourth quarter ball games, maybe on Saturday at least, or you know, with Oklahoma. So we'll see what rears itself in this one.
Roger, I saw a clip of Quinn Ewers that went, I guess, semi-viral the other day. He was just talking about his faith, and you see that from, you know, various players from time to time. But, you know, having been, you know, around and seen him these last couple of years, is it fair to say from the outside that he's matured a great deal? And has that been noticeable for those of you who have been, you know, following him along the way? It just seems like there's, and I know a lot was kind of made of that too, of just, you know, growing up and maturing and all of that. But has there been a noticeably kind of different attitude with Quinn Ewers this season?
Yeah, I think it's that, and then I think it's partially him just being comfortable. And last year, still, he was the equivalent age-wise of a true freshman playing quarterback at the University of Texas. So, and some guys are just either they're more gifted in front of the cameras, or they're willing to open up more. I think Quinn's very guarded with all the interviews and things. I think he plays it close to the vest. I think lately we've seen him, you know, open up a little bit more, but you know, that's the way he chooses to do it. But I think he's just more comfortable, more confident. And he admits that every time you ask him about last year, his response is the same. At this time last year, things were so different. Now I know more, I'm more comfortable, and therefore I'm more confident. And then, you know, things are flowing a little bit better. But, you know, he threw that pick at the end of the half, first one in 245 passes, and then came back and had a really good second half, obviously.
Do you think because and listen, they've had weapons before, but they do have weapons at every position, and they're all capable of going 50. But it seems like that's now allowing him to show off a little bit more of what he can do running the football.
Yeah, it's, you know, Sark even talked about it with us on the radio, is that what he's done has forced teams to play a little more zone. Just because you play man, you turn your back to Ewers, and he could pop you for 29 in Waco, or 30 on Saturday here, or a 3rd and 9, and he picks up 10 yards. So I think that helps. I think that speaks to, you know, maybe he's a little faster with the conditioning and the stuff he was able to accomplish in the offseason. But you're right. You got to be able to get that first down on 3rd and 7 when everything breaks down, and he's done that quite a bit more this year.
Roger, if I hypothesize that this game might be a little bit lower scoring because I think the defenses might play a little bit better than the offenses early on, would I be wild in saying that?
Well, I'll say from the Texas side, I don't think so. Their track record's pretty good through 5 games of keeping it fairly low scoring, and they scored 40 Saturday for the first time this year. So they're not, you know, a blitzkrieg offense. Haven't been that way. They've been a solid, efficient offense, but they haven't. Now they've had some fourth quarters where Malik Murphy's gotten his fair share of snaps, and they bring in a lot of guys, and so suddenly it turns into a kind of a different objective in the fourth quarter. But no, I don't think so at all. I think you look across college football, and we're seeing that a lot in ball games. I mean, look at that Notre Dame Duke game Saturday night. You can go up and down, and things are kind of coming back to that as well. So no, I don't think that's crazy to think that it could be a game where the winning team has under 30.
Roger, is there a player who is not a star caliber name or a 5-star recruit? Is there somebody that's getting some of the dirty work done that's not getting much attention?
Well, they're really starting to like, and we might see him more depending on Jatavian Sanders, Gunnar Helm, the other tight end for Texas. He's gotten a few more chances, and now if Sanders, we don't know what his status will be for the game Saturday, but he could be a guy that has to come up big because Sanders is so valuable in that offense. And Gunnar Helm's not going to stretch the field like Sanders, but he's certainly capable of being yet another weapon. And then I think about a guy like Jordan Whittington, and he's made for these tough games in his last go around. And this is a guy that's done a lot of damage, but hadn't been able to get in the end zone much. He scored one touchdown last year. He hasn't scored a touchdown this year. I know he's going to be ready to go for one more go around in this rivalry.
Thanks, Raj. Appreciate your time.
Wait, David, I got to ask you a question. David, question.
Yep.
You remember our first Texas OU game together? Putting you on the spot.
It would have been 87, 86 or 87.
You nailed it. Johnny Walker, and then the next day we did the Scab game.
Yep, absolutely. We did was that the Washington?
And the weather changed by about 30 degrees from Saturday to Sunday up in Dallas.
It did. Golly, I remember
Scab,
that.
like the NFL strike Scab game?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Was it Washington and Dallas?
Wasn't that the Eagles game? Wasn't that
that's
the Buddy
right.
Ryan game?
Yeah, that's the Buddy Ryan game. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Man, those were the
All
days,
right.
huh?
How about that?
Thank you.
Grinding it out.
Yep.
All right.
Have
Good to talk
fun.
to you guys.
Roger Wallace, KXAN Television in Austin, but also the color analyst for UT football with Craig Way on the broadcast with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, always good to talk to Roger, and just looking forward to this game on Saturday. I think, opinion hasn't changed from a couple hours ago. I'm leaning Texas, or not leaning. I'm in the Texas corner as far as what I expect this weekend. I just think they're a little bit more well-rounded, but it's Red River, and you never know. All I can tell you is that it should be a better game than last year because it would be nearly impossible to not be, given that horror show from an Oklahoma perspective with Dylan Gabriel going down and not being able to play, and obviously not having a very capable quarterback. So even if that were to happen, Jackson Arnold's at least there. We know Texas is loaded in the quarterback spot too. But, yeah, last year that was a tough watch. Unless you're a Texas fan or probably like an Oklahoma State fan or something, or if you just have something against the Sooners, that was the greatest game ever. But, yeah, this will be highly competitive. Be Dylan Gabriel's first crack at Texas, and, both of them are highly ranked and unbeaten. So something's got to give, and man, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
There have been numerous blowouts in this series. Last year, 49-0. I'll never forget. And I still can't imagine what it was like. I think year 2, Oklahoma and Bob Stoops were on their way to a national championship. Josh Heupel, their quarterback. There were a bunch of blowouts. And eventually Mac got them in a blowout or two, I think, in 2005. But there have been some one-sided games in this rivalry, and yet there have been some unbelievable classics as well. Never forget about the pass interference call against Oklahoma in the end zone, pouring down rain. I think that might have been 1984 that was controversial. I'll never forget covering the game as a TV reporter when Bosworth and Oklahoma just crushed, I think it was Todd Dodge. Was it Todd Dodge? It might have been Todd Dodge as the quarterback position. Low-scoring game, but he had no chance. And then, of course, back and forth along the way.
I mean, yeah, up until last year, the last several had been very close games, 5 or 6 years in a row where it was a pretty tight game. But then last year, like I said, just with the quarterback injury and all of that, it was ugly very early on. But, yeah, Stoops, I think it was 2000, he just beat the mess out of Texas, like 63-14 or whatever it was. And that's when you're like, okay, things are different at Oklahoma now. And sure enough, they obviously would close out that season on a strong note. But, yeah, he got Mac
don't want to talk about it.
He got Mac a couple of times. And put Mac on a little bit of a hot seat in so many ways. And then Mac obviously went on the run in 2005 and all of that and got his, by the end of it, that was not Bob had the lead, but it wasn't like 15-3, or it was a little bit more even when all was said and done. But yeah, it's a fantastic series. It's a huge loss for the Big 12. No two ways about it. This is going to be memorable because it is the last as far as this goes. And then next year we'll have that SEC label attached to it. So a little bit of history on Saturday, one way or the other.
I covered the game in 2009. My good friend Adam Winkler, he needed some help doing it. And so I went up there and helped him. And it was one of the first times in my career that I had been to something, because this was a year before you and I started working together, Smokey. I get on the elevator, and in the elevator comes Barry Switzer, and he's got it's 8:45 in the morning, and he's got a drink in his hand, having a big old time. And then Brian Bosworth, like the next floor, Brian Bosworth gets on because he got off of the wrong floor. And I was like, holy cow, this is insane. And then Barry Switzer said, hey, Boz, come up with me. I'm going to see President Bush. He's going to see George, the first President Bush. He's going to see him. I'm going to see him. He's here at the game today. And then the whole game, the person sitting to my left was Candace, and I don't remember what's her like, Crawford, who is now Candace Romo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
she's married to the Deep. Or no, Sister of the Deep.
Sister
right?
of the Deep, yeah. So she was sitting there and talking. We were talking, and then Adam came in, and he goes, do you know who that is? And I said, yeah, her name's Candace. She works for this television station. She goes, no, she's probably going to marry Tony Romo. I was like, oh, okay.
And she did.
Speaking of Romo, that got brought back. I had totally forgotten about the whole Jessica Simpson thing there for a little while, because that's what everybody's comparing Kelsey and Swift to now at this point. But yeah, I had blacked that out, I think, from my memory, and that just reemerged over the last couple of days with all that other talk. But
does anybody else, when Tony Romo comes on the screen, just go, oh, Jim?
You know what? I'm going to tell you this. I don't really listen as much to the games now. I have them on. I'm watching them. Cowboys, I'm going to try to watch as much as I can. And obviously, I thought Philadelphia-Washington on Sunday was a great game that came down to the wire. But I don't listen to a lot of the broadcasters. I really don't. I just rather would have the game on. And Romo jumped onto the scene, was brilliant, and then, of course, started to take a lot of criticism because maybe he got, he just tried to change, or I don't know, his stick got old, but he's good. I mean, I just love the
I think people marveled at first about his ability to predict, and then it became kind of annoying. It's like, shut up and quit spoiling what's about to happen. I think that was part of it. Yeah. And it was we got a little Tony overkill there for a little stretch where he got the big broadcasting, attention and all of that. But yeah, I hadn't thought about the whole Jessica Simpson thing in 20 years.
So last year, the thing that's funny about Romo is that he kind of came under fire because people thought he maybe wasn't studying as much. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because he's now been out of the league for a chunk of time.
Sure.
And so before he didn't have to study because he'd already seen all these teams and offenses and things. And it's been a cycle through of coaching and systems where he wasn't. But I've watched 2 of the games he's done this year, beginning to end, and he's back on it now. Like he's really back on. I think he's done a good job. And of course, when you're sitting next to Jim Nantz, there's a burden to do a good job because Jim is one of the best that there ever will be. He is so good that you don't want to bring that down, I think.
Yeah, he was good. All right, but the Texas OU rivalry is 63 wins for Texas, 50 for Oklahoma, 5 ties, including that one I mentioned about the pass interference call in the end zone in that rainy day. But since 2000, when Oklahoma torched Texas, and they did over the next 3 or 4 years, I think one game was the 12-0 Roy Williams and the Batman or Superman play.
Superman.
Yeah, there was a 12-0 win. Oklahoma's won 16 of the last 24. Texas, of course, the largest margin of victory was last year. The largest margin of victory for Oklahoma was in 2003 when they won 65-13. And so it's still Texas, who they pretty much anybody they've played for more than 30 or 40 years back in the day, they have a pretty hefty lead on even the rivals. But 16-8, Oklahoma in the last 24 years since 2000 when they won the national title.
I mean, that was a 20-plus game deficit that's now down to 13.
It is.
And it could be 12 or could be 14, but they've closed the gap a little bit with this run over the last 23-4 years.
24 years, yeah.
Bob Stoops, circling back to that, he won, I think it was the first 5 against Texas and then ended up against Mac Brown at least 9-5. So like I was saying, Mac kind of closed the gap there. And Texas would eventually respond. But, yeah, Stoops got off to an incredible start and some major blowouts, and then Mac was able to kind of close that gap. But, it's an incredible series. It's one of the best in American sports, and it's going to be full of pageantry, I would imagine, just knowing all of the stakes in general. But also it's the last year of, it being just like this, and it will feel different with the SEC banners next year. So, going to be a very interesting game on Saturday.
It'll be interesting to see what the feel is. It'll still be incredible, the atmosphere, the way that the stadium is truly split with burnt orange and crimson. It will be unbelievable. It's fun. I one time just sat in the end zone not far from Bevo and just watched the pageantry of that game. When we come back, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, his thoughts about the Texans, and man, did they strike it rich, it looks like, with C.J. Stroud. And he also has a little chip on his shoulder and not afraid to say it. And this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Bob Mock has 5 locations in Waco, used to be none. Fastest growing pizza brand in America, and he's one of the reasons why, because Waco, again, now has 5 locations: Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and also in Robinson. I saw him at a Baylor game. Usually do when they're playing at home, and this year, of course, they have 8 home games. Always have a chance to kind of visit with him. He loves to talk college sports, and he's fun with it, and also very honest about what he sees, whether it's a college game that he watched on television or one with Baylor, whoever they may have played. But the one thing he does, he understands the pizza business, has been in the business for many years before he bought the Marco's locations in Waco or opened them up in Waco. Marco's Pizza, you can go online, order, you can pick up, they can deliver as well. They have different discount codes if you want to use them. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marcos.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at sportsradio610.com.
John McClain, the Hall of Famer, joins us, and we will get to baseball and the Astros and the Rangers. Rangers winning today, as Craig mentioned earlier, 4-0 in Tampa, in actually St. Petersburg. John, thank you for your time. Have the Texans found gold in C.J. Stroud?
They have. He's been outstanding. I just tweeted that C.J. Stroud, his 22nd birthday today, joins this group of quarterbacks who've thrown for at least 1,200 yards without an interception in the first 4 games of the season. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning. It's a pretty good group. And he's second in history to Cam Newton for yards over the first 4 games. And he's the first guy in history to have at least, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, without an interception in his first 4 games. So he's been fantastic. Texans have won their last 2 by 20 at Jacksonville, 24 over the Steelers, a blowout, and people here are just flabbergasted.
When do you think they'll get some relief on the offensive line?
It's interesting because they were, in these last 2 games, they played their third left tackle, third left guard. The third left guard tore up ligament, and they had to replace him with a guy who came off the practice squad, a backup center, third right tackle. So the backups who were starting are hurt. But that line did not give up a sack in the last 2 games. TJ Watt went into the game with 6 sacks. Steelers had 13. They had none. Watt had 1 hit on Stroud and 2 tackles. So those backups did a hell of a job. Now they get their 2 tackles back. They get their center back. So they ought to be in better shape, but it's hard to improve on what they've done these last 2 games. One thing that should help them is they should be able to run the ball better.
John, Jalen Petrie come back, everything okay as far as him and his return and how he's looked so far?
He had a great game. He had a blitz that screwed up quarterback Kenny Pickett. He had another big play in the backfield. One of the things I'm going to talk to him about tomorrow, in the first quarter, cornerback Steven Nelson made a leaping interception on a deep ball about down the middle. And he got up and he started running, and Petrie was kind of to his left and signaling him, follow me. And so he kind of did. So Petrie turns and runs down the field and sees number 14 from Pittsburgh. And I mean, he hit the guy, he knocked him down, and then he jumped on top of him. He was rude and crude to that defensive back. And he went to Baylor. I'm going to tell him, I can't believe you do those kind of things coming from Baylor.
But you loved it with the Texans, right?
Oh my goodness, he was outstanding. They loved Petrie just like every Baylor fan knew that they would. You know, he missed 2 games with a bruised lung, and now he's fine. And that defense is playing way above what we thought that was capable of playing with D'Amico Ryans making the calls.
John, the Cowboys have had 3 wins this season in 4 games, which have all been ridiculous blowouts because their defense and special teams have made huge plays. Their offense is fine. I mean, that's the best thing you can say about it right now. They're not great in the red zone. So are they really a team that can contend long-term, or is it a little bit of smoke and mirrors these first 4?
Well, first of all, people can just forget about the Arizona game. That was a game in which they just didn't take them seriously. Now, we're all pretty sure they're not going to blow out the game coming up. And one of the things, though, Dak Prescott, the wide receivers, tight end, and running game, they're going to have to be better. They're going to have to be more consistent because 49ers got a good defense. They've got balance. That defense is going to go up against the most balanced offense in the league, along with Philadelphia, that runs the ball a lot. Christian McCaffrey has been magnificent. Brock Purdy had 1 incompletion in the game Sunday. So they have a streak going back to last season in which they've scored 30 or more. I'll be surprised they do it against the Cowboys. You know, you hope if you're a Cowboys fan that pass rush can make Purdy's life miserable. What the Cowboys need to do that other teams have not been able to do is get a big lead and force Purdy to beat you. So far, he's had the benefit of a big play running game, and he's got big play tight end, big play wide receiver. Nobody has the offensive balance that the 49ers have.
John, what do you make of the Chicago Bears' current struggles and that Denver loss just adding to them this past weekend? I did see if there's a bright spot as it currently stands, they'd have the top 2 picks in next year's draft, and so that seems like it's a great thing to hang your hat on. But just what have you made of that whole situation out there in Chicago?
Let me point out, there's a reason the Bears have never had a great passing quarterback, ever. The Soldier Field is on Lake Michigan. The wind blows constantly. And that's in August, September, and October before the weather gets miserable. Just like Cleveland. It's on Lake Erie. Cleveland has not had a 4,000-yard passer since 1980 in Brian's sight. They build around the running game, physicality. They build on defense, special teams, the trenches. And if I'm Caleb Williams, I don't care if I'm going to get $22 million to sign. I'm thinking long term. I'm saying, okay, how many more Burger King commercials, national, can you give me? And see if they can get it up a little bit. And then hope like heck some other quarterback goes to the Bears. And if the Bears are awful next year, then he'll go somewhere else. People were saying he'd do that if it was Arizona. Phoenix looks a whole lot better, a place to live and play than Chicago in the winter. And so I'll be real surprised if that happens. Now, Justin Fields for 3 quarters had a perfect rating. He had 4 touchdowns. He had 1 incompletion, I think. He was tremendous. And then the play calling was bad. The coach made a terrible decision to go for a first down instead of kick a field goal. There was a lot of coaches making a lot of bad decisions during games. And it's amazing. They've kind of gone analytical crazy. And the one thing that gets me, analytics say, let's go for 4th and 1 on our 24 because we have a 68% better chance to win. Well, analytics don't take into account who you're playing against, whether you're playing against a great defense or a bad defense or who's hurt and who's not. You can't just go by analytics. It should be a tool, and that's it. Somebody needs to tell that to Chargers coach Brandon Staley, who's the worst there is about going for it at the wrong time.
John, are the Bears going to build a new stadium, though? Didn't their owners buy, like, a site?
Yeah, they bought a site in the suburbs. They're going to build a stadium there. The mayor is fighting it. They want them downtown. They say they'll build it. And it's like if Cleveland had built its new stadium on Lake Erie next to the old one, which was called Mistake by the Lake. If they built it in the suburbs, the wind wouldn't be nearly as bad. And I don't know if the Bears are thinking about that because they want control of the stadium where they have final say on who comes in there. They get benefit. Suburbs will give owners anything if they want it. So they're going to get a new stadium one way or another, and I think they're headed to the suburbs instead of Soldier Field, and that would be too bad.
John, the Astros are in. They win the West on the tiebreaker. Rangers won earlier today against Tampa Bay. There's a little, this is some bad blood if the Rangers and Astros meet, which I don't think they will because the Rangers have to go through first Tampa, no matter the one-game victory, and then Baltimore. Your thoughts about this? It's kind of a little bit of back and forth between some media and the Rangers organization, vice versa.
Well, Chris Young's general manager made a fool out of himself, I thought. Now, of course, people in the Metroplex don't think that. Going after a reporter, Brian McTaggart, for an innocuous tweet he put out about the Rangers celebrated with a champagne celebration, which they did. We all saw the pictures. While the Astros toasted champagne, wore their T-shirts, and said, we got bigger fish to fry, which is winning the division. And they won 8-1 on Sunday, and the Rangers lost 1-0, and Young just went crazy, acted like he was chastising Brian McTaggart, who's the least controversial reporter I've ever seen, talking about Houston journalists, talking about everybody hates him. It's great for the rivalry. Now there will be people who call him a genius, saying he took the pressure off his team and put it on himself. And so the Rangers did a great job today, and I would hope Chris Young would thank Brian McTaggart for helping them win since they intimated that he helped them lose. But it's a great accomplishment by the Rangers. I want them to win. I want the Astros to win. I want them to play for the World Series. This rivalry has become unbelievable.
Was it McTaggart's tweet or was it the infographic that they put out that said that the team put out that said we celebrate championships in Houston?
No, he was mad at Brian McTaggart, called him, said journalist, classless, all these things for telling the truth. They did have a champagne celebration.
All right, John, let's end on a historic note and a much happier note.
I turned it off. I was so disgusted, and I started running errands, and I'm on a tweet thread with a bunch of my friends who are Baylor grads, and like me and everybody else, they were just disgusted with the 35-7 score, and I wasn't paying any attention. I get in the car, I look at my phone, and I see that it's 35-33, and I'm like, holy bleep. So I ran to the closest place, which was a Mexican restaurant. I ran in the bar, and I made them change the channel just so I could see the winning field goal. And then I held my breath because I'm thinking, okay, on SportsCenter tonight, they're going to say boomer, boom, a 59-yard game-winning field goal. Thank God he didn't. And congratulations to those fighting Baylor Bears.
What do you think about that throw from the end zone about 30 yards behind the line of scrimmage?
Never seen anything like it. Never.
It was unbelievable.
That was an act of God.
Yeah, if that was a Heisman Trophy candidate, that would have been his Heisman moment. But, man, did they need a win. I don't know what happens against Tech Saturday night, but everything tasted better. Probably drinks were better. The smelling atmosphere was better. But what a game. What a huge game.
I said on all my shows, Baylor missed the best comeback in franchise history. The Astros come back from the dead to win the division by winning 5 of 6 at Seattle. And then Arizona and the Texans beat the hell out of the Steelers. First time since they've beaten them since 2011. And J.J. Watt got honored here. It was a great weekend if you were a sports fan in Houston.
You'd think somebody who covered the Oilers and the Bills in that crazy game would never, was it the Titans, would never have.
No, it was the Oilers. Oilers and Bills.
Oilers and Bills would never have turned off a team down by 28 like you did.
Well, if my heart had not belonged to Baylor since 1960, I wouldn't have done it. And plus, I was in the press box and I couldn't get away on the other one, or I would have walked out of the Buffalo. I would have turned off the Buffalo Oilers game because the Oilers were going to run away with it.
Thank you, John.
Second Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, Tuesdays, most every Tuesday at 5:30.
Yeah, good stuff there. The Rangers Astros, that little kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it, was kind of just stupid. I didn't get deep into the depths of what all was said and the reactions to it or whatnot, though. I do know that there were definitely some Astros reporters that were cheerleading, and I don't know if McTaggart was or not, but, I mean, I think that's probably part of what he was responding to. Anyways, there was a letter just sent out by Pat Chun that I wanted to pass along, and it's addressed to the NCAA Division I Council. And we were talking earlier about the stuff with Washington State and basically just clearing the air on that stuff with Washington State and Oregon State. This isn't any enlightening or breaking news, but it is interesting. Addressed to the NCAA Division Council. It basically says, most of you in this room know and understand what's happened in conference realignment over the last century, decade, years, and especially the last few months. Many in this room have reached out personally, and he basically says thank you for all of that, but goes on to say that they sit in a unique position. He goes on to kind of trumpet up their top 25 teams and things like that, but says, so while the industry ebbs and flows through the tumult of rearranging values and priorities, Washington State is left to create a patchwork solution to ensure our student-athletes maintain access to NCAA championships. As this process unfolds, we ask for compassion, understanding, and flexibility in navigating the NCAA governance structure and potential legislative waivers. We appreciate the spirit of teamwork and camaraderie that is underscored throughout college athletics. So just wanted to pass that along because they're clearly in a tough spot, and I think he's trying to get some understanding from, obviously, the Division I Council, because if they are a two, like we were talking about earlier, it's like there's no automatic Pac-12 spot in the playoff, and if you're a two-team conference or whatever you're going to be, which they're still working out, there are going to have to be some concessions made to keep them at a certain level, and so that's basically what it sounds like he's asking for, is just a little bit of compassion, basically, for their situation, which I think we all feel for Washington State and Oregon State.
We would love for them to survive and stay P5. Whatever happens with whatever conference it is, we put to rest the story about those two being involved in anything future with the Big 12 or imminently. That's not going to happen, and that's from the Big 12 administrator. But I want Washington State and Oregon State to have a chance. I do. It's such a unique situation, the way everything around them just fell apart.
But yeah, as Ross Dellinger pointed out, they do have that 2-year grace period, right? Because you can be below the threshold for a 2-year grace period. But as he mentions, the schools would need waivers to compete in a lot of the championship events. So I think this is kind of preceding that and going ahead and trying to clear the air there on how that would work.
If that does happen. I think that's the B scenario.
Is the staying as 2?
It's the staying as 2.
Okay.
Like that's the one if whatever they're going to negotiate with the Mountain West doesn't work out. But I do think that the Mountain West, or the 2 thing happens because whatever they're negotiating with the Mountain West and naming themselves the Pac has to wait, whatever legal wrangling they have to do, contract, renegotiating and rewording and all those things.
I'm still curious of how they're going to get a schedule put together in time for next year.
Well, that's why I think they're pretty much going to have to do the Mountain West thing, because then you have other teams you will automatically play, because other than the non-conference contracts that they have already, and some of those are not going to be, some of those are the guarantee games that they're playing anyway, so those teams aren't going to back out of that, but outside of 1 or 2 games on your schedule, I mean, who do you got?
So can they remain Pac-12 too and go independent for 1 year or 2, or would they lose their Power 5?
Well, they wouldn't be independent if they're the Pac-2.
Yeah, that's true.
They'd be 2 teams, so no. But as far as putting together a schedule, I mean, who has enough holes to fill out a 12-game schedule next year? I mean, are there 12 teams for 2 teams to find? Okay, you need 11
Baylor
for
had
each
to find
one.
Long Island and Albany.
Right.
So
you get 1 game against each other, and then you need 11 more games on both sides of that, which a year out, less than a year out, seems like it would be pretty hard to do.
They have San Diego State, San Jose State, and Portland State now.
Okay, never mind.
So they have 3 non-conference.
Yeah.
So
you
they got to find
8.
9 games.
Yeah.
No, you play each other.
They play 8.
Yeah.
They need 8 games to fill the 8 Pac-12 games that disappear.
Yeah, so Pat Chun just sending that to the NCAA Division I Council and basically asking for some compassion as they try to wade through some of this stuff. So I thought I'd pass that along. But as Ross points out, they're going to need a waiver for some of those championships.
But then again, then they might need 9 or 10, because if they join the Mountain West, 2 of their games are against Mountain West teams.
Yeah, that's true.
So then you're going to have to.
Yeah.
Oregon State in 2024 has Idaho State, Boise State, which is Mountain West, and Purdue. So they have those 3 games scheduled. So they would have to replace, I would think, then the Boise State game. I like what he did. I understand why he did it. But I also sometimes wonder, when somebody's in the position, would they have felt the same compassion if somebody else had written them a letter?
I mean, who's to know? Who's to say? We understand the Pac's feelings towards the Big 12 when they had opportunities. It was their noses were too high in the air to see the future clear enough to make better decisions, and that's fine. But I don't know that that's Pat Chun's fault or Washington State's fault necessarily. And we'll get more clarity on the legal stuff in the next couple of months as that irons itself out and works its way through the proper channels. So by the end of football season, I would think that we'd probably have a good idea of where all of that in limbo, kind of who controls what and what does that mean and how does that work, and that would obviously lead to whatever they end up doing in the future.
Here's a great question from Justin R. If Army joins the AAC next year, when the Pac-2 could grab some of the games that Army would need to cancel? Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know. In 2024, they have Ball State, UConn. They're going to need non-conference. Syracuse, Dartmouth, Rice, UNLV, Air Force, obviously Navy, and Wake Forest, and UMass. So there are some games that they may have to give up in 2024. That's a great point, though. I don't know the answer to that, Justin. Thanks for the question. This, Paul's Top 5 is next, is 365 Sports. Don Chumador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco, a place where you can find the best in cigars, and I mean the best. Padron and Cohiba, Ashton, Rocky Patel, which is my favorite brand, Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta. You just go on and on. They have them. 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded up with boxes and boxes and boxes of cigars. And even the ones that are open for you to look at, there's on top of the shelf, there are more boxes for them to replace the ones that are sold. On top of that, they have all of the accessories you need if you smoke cigars or are going to buy something for somebody who does. From the humidor, they have Pelican cases that are the hard plastic cases that might carry 5, 6, 10, 20 cigars if you ever go traveling and you want to protect them and make sure you keep them as far as the humidity and moisture that they need. Also, they have the cutters. They have the torch lighters. They have the punch where you can punch it into the cigar so you don't get it all ratted up. And CBD products, including Vita Dreams, to help you go to sleep at night if you toss and turn too much. And even THC for those. In fact, the package is called For Bad Days. For some people who have chronic pain, like it hurts all of the time. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. Valley Mills in Waco between Richland Drive and also Valley Mills in the Townwest Shopping Center just off of both those streets.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 SEC observations. And before we get to that, let's talk about our good friends at Unite Private Networks. Go to UnitePrivateNetworks.com. Our internet is absolutely fantastic. Even has a UPC backup. So when we had a power outage last week, the internet stayed connected. That was an unbelievable thing that happened to us. We had that backup there. Now, we probably need to get that for everything in this room. But we had a power outage, a week or two ago that lasted maybe 6 seconds, like a little brownout, and we came right back on and we're connected to our stream because of Unite Private Networks. They're unbelievable. Check out UnitePrivateNetworks.com. So here's top 5 SEC observations. Number 5, Kentucky's a team to watch, in my opinion. I don't know what's going to happen this week against Georgia. It probably doesn't bode well for Kentucky that A, they're playing this game in Athens, and B, Georgia got a scare put into them last week by a very, I'll call them mediocre at best Auburn team right now as Hugh Freeze tries to rebuild that program. But they make big plays. They make really big plays. Ray Davis, the running back, really a fun player to watch. Devin Leary at quarterback hasn't been quite as good as I thought he would be in Liam Cohen's offense yet, but I do think he's a really solid player. Maybe just a little bit of a, if Will Levis is an A- quarterback, then I think that you've got Devin Leary at a B+, who could even be better. So I think they're a team to watch. They're going to be interesting down the stretch. And maybe they could be the team that finally ends Georgia's winning streak, but I do think they're someone to watch. Mark Stoops does a good job.
14.5-point favorite, so I just looked at some picks.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good spread for a team in Georgia that is kind of just, they just kind of, maybe they're bored. I don't know.
I think they're somewhat bored, yeah. I think the hard part for Kentucky is how are they going to run the football as effectively with Ray Davis as they, like last week's example. That's not likely against the Georgia defense.
No.
So you're going to need, Devin Leary to have a much bigger game and whatnot. But, that's a team that's been good for, going on a while now. I mean, this has been, pretty consistent. But the 5-0 start, that's obviously pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
Can they finish it out strong enough? But, I mean, they've won, 10 games a couple of times in the past decade. They've been to multiple bowl games. Mark Stoops has done a really good job there. And they're not a team that you can just say is a pushover any given week. I mean, that's a team that you have to, be alert and be aware, and they can knock you off. But, yeah, I mean, it's Georgia. So I don't know how they're going to be able to, because Ray Davis isn't rushing for 200-plus yards. Most likely. If he does, though, man alive, I will be first thing Monday's show talking about how wrong I was, because that would be something else to behold. But, yeah it's going to be tough.
Number 4, will the SEC West winner have 2 losses? I keep thinking about this because I just don't Alabama now seems like if they can, again, because they have Nick Saban, that they might be able to coach around these problems. I don't see A&M going through this thing unscathed. I just don't, especially with the backup quarterback. Max Johnson is a good backup quarterback to have, but he's still the backup quarterback. LSU is a team that defensively, Garrett's shaking his head. They're an absolute mess. But at any given moment, they can haul off and score 45 on you. So sometimes that defense won't matter as much.
If A&M wins at home against Alabama, and I know they have the rest of their schedule, but doesn't that put them in the driver's seat?
It absolutely does. But, again, this could be the SEC West doing a little Big 12 where they cannibalize each other a little bit.
That's true.
So that's what I'm wondering if that's where it is, because look, Ole Miss has shown that it has problems, and really, you take Mississippi State and Auburn kind of out of this discussion, but it's really a 4-team race right now with LSU, Bama, A&M, and Ole Miss just having beaten LSU. So yeah, there's a good shot, and when I say 2 losses, I mean 2 losses in conference, because all these teams all have at least 1 loss at a conference.
What is A&M's crossover game? Is it
South Carolina?
South Carolina, okay.
For the last time that one. Let's make the SEC. Let's make this a rivalry.
Is Alabama's Tennessee?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, because that would be the flip back of last of last year. So, and look, Tennessee's not really anything to be shaking in your boots about right now either. So
yeah, they're okay.
So I mean, I think there's a good shot that this comes out where the SEC West winner is maybe 9-3 or 10-2 overall,
and they're all 6-2, 2 or 3 at 6-2 in the conference.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that happened last year with LSU, did it not? 6-2 in the conference.
Yeah,
I believe it did, but it hadn't happened as far as the West goes in a really long time. That I can best tell. Maybe it was back in 2007. LSU had 2 losses. The East, it's happened a couple of times. But, last year's LSU team was 6-2.
Wow.
But it has not happened very frequently. And this year does set up to be one of those where, it could very well work out that way, where they all just beat up on each other. Absolutely.
Because Alabama never lost. Or if they did, they lost maybe once.
Let's see.
So there you go.
7-1, 10-0. LSU was 8-0. Bama 8-0. Auburn 7-1. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But the last time the Western champion had 2 losses, as best I could tell, was that 2007 LSU team that beat Tennessee, who also was a 2-loss division team out of the East. So it's been a while.
Number 3, Bama might have fixed themselves. They might have. The way I've watched in the last couple of weeks, they might have fixed themselves enough to where they can coach around all this, because the defense is playing out of its mind right now. So if that continues, and we'll see, because they're playing an A&M offense that's pretty solid and has some seriously good weapons on the outside, then maybe number 2 doesn't happen, and Bama just rolls on and gets over their little, early season freak out and rolls 2. I don't think that's the case, because I think Jalen Milroe will have to throw more effectively to help them win some of these games, particularly LSU. I know that they'll be able to run the ball against LSU, but I do think that they're going to have to probably throw it more effectively against LSU when they play them. So, but still, if you look at what's going on in Alabama, I think before we kick dirt on Nick Saban, just let him figure it out because he can figure it out pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, they're still the most talented team arguably in the country, no matter what their record was, and no matter how young or inexperienced anybody may be, especially at quarterback. So it's easier said than done, of course, but it's also easier for them to do than just about anybody. And I just think they're playing really good defense, and they're going to have a strong defense, and then, just hope that Milroe's able to guide them and make some plays here and there. But, I think that they've kind of realize their identity and what it's going to look like winning moving forward. And I think that that's what, is maybe how they've fixed themselves, just realizing who they are and what they're capable of doing and what they aren't and what they're not, probably best at doing. And so, they're going to play defense and, just hope Milroe takes care of the football and makes some plays here and there. And, it's still Alabama at the end of the day. So for as much as people wanted to read last rites because that's been a want for a lot of people for like 15 years now at this point. I'm not counting out Saban until it's all said and done just because they lost to Texas. I mean, come on now.
They lost the turnover battle 2-0 when Milroe threw 2 deadly picks against the Horns. They won the turnover battle 2-1 against Ole Miss. I think it was 1-1 with whoever it was after that. They picked off 3 passes against Mississippi State. They're starting to have the disruptive plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing. Nick Saban had the backbone and the confidence to play 2 terrible quarterbacks against USF and win that game so that he could send a message to the guy who's the most talented of the bunch.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Well,
I mean, so far, it's worked.
Yeah. No, it may have gotten him refocused and also stopped being selfish.
Yeah. I mean, that is, there you go, Nick Saban. Number 2, LSU's defense needs help. I will let Garrett comment on this, on what he thinks needs to happen.
I'm of the belief that, Pete Jenkins coming out of retirement isn't going to help much.
He's done that 5 or 6 times.
It's been a while. I'm of the belief that Matt Rule and Baylor set LSU back firmly when Matt Rule went and took the Panthers job, and then Baylor took Aranda and dismantled our whole coaching staff. And this is where you're at. So I've been taken aback by all the Baylor fans who've complained about Dave Aranda and the lack of defensive excellence because it's complete blasphemy and ignorant, in my opinion. But I would gladly like to have Dave Aranda back on the Bayou, but that's not going to happen. So this is where we're at.
There you go. I mean, Baylor's defense has had some warts. We know that, but I get what you're saying.
We know.
Hey, what the hell's happened to the guy? The
Harold Perkins?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
They're playing with the wrong position.
Exactly.
I know that they did that earlier. Are they still doing that?
Yes, it's annoying.
By the way, just a trivia question. Remember when Joe Brady was like the hottest name in coaching? Y'all even know where he is now?
He was with the Bills last year.
That was the last place I saw him.
Quarterback's coach for the Bills.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, they got a pretty damn good quarterback in Josh Allen.
And that's also Matt Rule's fault because he took Joe Brady from LSU.
It is.
Took him to Carolina.
Yeah. Number 1. Uga's gettable. They're gettable. Now, will they get got? Who knows? But they're gettable. This team is not the Imperial death force that they were a year ago. They're still very good and one of the best teams in the country by far. But because, like we talked about, they're a little bit bored. They have a new quarterback. You don't lose, 40 NFL guys off 2 years of a roster and then look the same, even though a year and a half from now, it's probably going to be at the same kind of look. But this is a younger team. They've got to kind of really come through this, but they're gettable. They're not rolling out and drilling people like they were. So they can be. I just don't know if they will be, because sometimes if you can get through those things like Auburn, then you just move on through it.
Or even South Carolina. They've trailed by double digits in the last 2 games at a halftime or during the first half. That's playing with fire.
Yeah, I mean, they are gettable, like you said. I mean, that was evidenced by last weekend. They were in a position to potentially lose that game. It's been weird. I was mentioning Ray Davis, like the odds of him running like he did last weekend against Florida are pretty slim. But, I mean, Georgia's run defense isn't like what you would expect, like the top level, top notch to be. Like there is some some room there to run a little bit potentially for Kentucky. Their pass defense has been really good though. And then on offense, I think that they're still trying to find their run game a little bit. Like they had a string of like every position's a string of NFLers, but I think that's still a work in progress. So the running offense and running defense, I think are two areas you could look where maybe they're not exposed, but they're a little bit vulnerable. And we'll see how Kentucky can maybe, attack those areas, but they're still light years better than basically every other team in the country in many ways, if not all ways. And so, they're still tough to top, as was evidenced last weekend. But there's some team out there that can knock them off on the right Saturday or in the right moment.
All right, Paul. There you go. They're gettable. No one's gettable. They are gettable. Georgia board will find out because Kentucky is a team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. They don't screw up very much, and obviously they are a team that can play with you physically too. All right, thanks to Owen, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Levi, and Emery. We appreciate all of them for being a part of the show and making us do what we do and look the way we do, which is hard sometimes. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, for our great sponsors as we opened up yet another month in October of college football season. I'm David Smoak. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Tomorrow we are loaded up with numerous guests, including Scott Drew, Mac Rhodes, Joey McGuire, and more. 365 Sports. Good night.